A service of KIBMradio.com, the Internet's home for an all-old-time radio.
Your Coca-Cola bottler presents Claudia. Claudia, based on the original stories by Rose Franken. Brought to you, transcribed, Monday through Friday, by your friendly neighbor who bottles Coca-Cola. Relax, and while you're listening, refresh yourself. Have a Coke. And now, Claudia.
Oh, darling, I wish we weren't going to Julia and Hartley's. I wish we were going home. Why do they always have to have people over at the drop of a holiday?
We'll only stay a few minutes. Just long enough to wish them a Happy New Year. Then we'll skedoodle. Besides, I don't think she expects a crowd.
That's good. Will she have eggnog? I love the nog part, but I could do without the egg.
Well, here we are.
David, how do I look?
Beautiful.
You didn't even look.
I didn't have to. You're beautiful.
David, what's the matter?
That chauffeur.
What's the matter with him?
He's Daphne Baker's chauffeur. That's what's the matter with him.
Oh, Daphne Baker. Isn't she the debutante that Julia wanted you to marry?
Oh, she had some kind of an idea about it.
That means Daphne is inside at Julia and Hartley's.
I'll get Julia for this.
David, do I look all right?
You look better than Daphne ever did.
Darling, that's very sweet of you.
Well, if it isn't David, come in.
Well, hello. Are you butling today, Reggie?
No, just avoiding making my entrance for as long as possible.
Reggie, I'd like you to meet Claudia, my wife. Claudia, this is Reggie Finch.
Hello, Mr. Finch. Happy New Year.
Oh, I'd forgotten you got married. Hello. Very happy indeed. David, how did you get roped into this?
Into what?
Oh, I didn't mean you, my dear.
Well, it sounded as if you did.
Certainly did.
I meant roped into coming here today.
You're sure now that that's what you mean?
Oh, my, yes, I'm sure. Your wife's charming and very beautiful. Oh, I say, is Daphne going to be here?
Daphne?
Reggie, you don't look too happy about something.
Coming to this recital by Julia's latest protege, a musicale on New Year's afternoon. Imagine.
Oh, music, huh?
You'd think Julia would realize that today we've got quite enough music in our own heads as it is.
Well, I'm half tempted to turn around and go home. Why can't Julia leave music in the concert hall where it belongs? Then you go in when you want to and leave if you want to.
It's a disease with Julia, and on New Year's Day. It's sure to prove fatal with me.
I thought you liked music.
I
David.
love it, but I hate sitting around trying to look appreciative.
David, you haven't changed at all, thank goodness. We've sat through any number of Julia's musicales, haven't we?
Too many. And this is the last one.
Oh, that's what I always say, but here I am. By the way, you weren't up in Newport at all last summer, were you?
No, I escaped. I got married.
Newport really isn't the same as it used to be before the war. Not the same at all.
That's good.
Well, we might as well go in and face the music. As long as he doesn't play any louder, it'll be all right.
We'd better stay out here until he's finished.
I wish Julie had an old pair of earmuffs kicking around with an ice bag attached.
David, he's playing the Beethoven Minuet. I used to play that on the piano.
You used to play that.
Of course, it didn't sound this way, but it was my $1,000 piece. When we get a piano, darling, I'll play it for you.
I can hardly wait.
David, point Daphne out to me.
Pointing is rude. Can't you wait?
If I point her out to you, you tell me if I'm right?
I will not.
Is that she over there on the corner of the sofa, that pretty blonde girl? The one without too much charm?
You are a mean little hussy.
Then that is Daphne. Poor Daphne.
Why poor Daphne?
No charm. And no you.
That's our cue. Take a deep breath. In we go.
Claudia, David. Ah, you're here.
Hello, Julia.
Happy New Year, Julia.
Don't I get greeted, Julia?
Of course, Reggie. So glad to see you. Oh, you're not looking very well.
I'm not feeling very well.
Fine way to start the new year. Hello there, my dear.
Hello, Hartley.
Hello,
You're
Hartley.
just in time for one more piece. I'm sorry you couldn't hear the rest. It was marvelous.
Oh, I'm sorry we're late, Julia.
No matter. Reggie, you come over here. There's a place right next to Daphne just for you. Claudia, David.
We'll sit down right here, Julia. This will be fine.
Good. We'll talk later.
Move over a little, my dear. Make room for me.
Love to. Come on, Hartley, sit down.
Well, everybody, we're going to have a pièce de résistance now. Mr. Abraham Goldman, a distinguished graduate of the Yale Conservatory and the Peabody Institute, will give us his very special and widely known rendition of the Horus Staccato, as transcribed by Yasha Heifetz from the original composition by Denisio.
Well, I've heard this on the violin, Hartley, but never on the organ.
I hope he hasn't bitten off more than he can chew.
It's going to be tough.
Well, it's his neck.
Do please go right ahead, Mr. Goldman. And now, Mr. Goldman.
David, he's wonderful.
Made it. Good boy.
There was never any doubt about it once he'd start. He's got a beautiful technique, Hartley.
An amazingly facile touch. Excellent. Really excellent.
I'd like to hear him play some Bach.
I've got to hand it to Julia. She put one over on us this time.
Well, I'm afraid that's all we can ask of you, Mr. Goldman. Thank you so much. Hartley, my dear, would you mind coming over here a moment?
No, not at all. I'll be back in a moment. Don't you run away.
Even Reggie Finch seemed to enjoy it.
And Daphne. She had such a dreamy look. Poor Daphne. Julia's arranging things between her and Reggie Finch now.
Will you stop calling her poor Daphne? She's got about $3 million to play around with.
$3 million. If you've got that, you don't need charm.
You little cat.
Darling, maybe Julia was right. Maybe you should have married Daphne.
No, I'll make my first $3 million myself, thanks.
But, David, think of all the people she could have introduced you to. She must have terrific connections. And even if Newport isn't the way it was before the war, still it is Newport, isn't it?
And Coney Island is still Coney Island, and I prefer Coney Island.
You mean you think I'm Coney Island? You really, darling?
Here comes Daphne now.
How do I look?
You've got whiskers and a long, furry tail.
David!
Well, that wasn't bad, was it? David, I stayed awake very nicely.
Hello, Daphne.
David, you're looking marvelous. And is this Claudia?
It is. Hello. I've heard a lot about you.
I've been wanting to call you to give you my very best wishes for a very happy life.
Well, that's very nice of you, Daphne.
Excuse me.
Excuse me?
Well, you look very well, Daphne.
Thank you.
Excuse me, but I see the eggnog bowl is about to make its appearance. I'll be right back.
David, my boy.
Oh, hello, Hartley. I've been wanting to talk to you. As you know, probably Roger's off to be at Parkland.
No, David?
Yes, David.
Marriage seems to agree with David.
Oh, do you really think so?
I do really think so. He has the look of a happy man. Julia told me he's become a partner in Roger's firm.
Yes, it happened Christmas Eve. It was quite a surprise for us.
Really? Well, not to me. I expected it for David. He's such a talented architect.
How nice of you to say that.
David and I are old friends.
I know. You've known him a lot longer than I have. You probably even know a lot more about him than I do. I know so little of David's world before I met him.
It happens. I've always been very fond of David.
Of course, I only said a few words to Reggie Finch as he came in, but I think he's very nice, too.
Reggie? He's sweet. He's always been sweet. I prefer my dogs.
Dogs? Have you got a lot of dogs?
Well, I breed them. I must have about 100 by now.
100?
Of course, I don't keep that number. I sell them or breed them for friends.
100 dogs? I've only got one.
Do you show him?
I only just got him. I don't think dogs like to be shown.
Oh, my dogs seem to love it. They're French poodles.
You mean the dogs without anything in the back? Our dog is a Great Dane.
A Great Dane?
Yes.
Well, what's it like to own a Great Dane?
Wonderful. And exhausting. David adores him.
It must be rather overpowering. I might even like it.
I don't think a man should be without a Great Dane.
Well, maybe someday I'll have a Great Dane. Goodbye, Claudia. It's been nice meeting you.
Oh, Daphne, are you leaving?
I'm meeting Mother for dinner.
But isn't Reggie taking you home?
Oh, don't bother him. He seems to be having such a nice time.
Well, hello. How's my debutante wife?
David. Poor Daphne.
Are you still saying poor Daphne?
When I first saw her, I guess I was a little catty. But now I know all she's got is no charm. $3 million, 100 poodles, and Julia trying to marry her off to Reggie Finch.
Everybody's always trying to marry poor Daphne off.
She was in love with you. Don't we know anybody good for her?
Now, Claudia, don't you too? You know that when you try and fix something up for somebody, it never works out.
David, somebody tried to fix us up. Would we have worked?
I doubt it.
You do? How can you say such a thing?
But look, darling, since nobody tried to fix us up, since we just happened, how would you like to go home?
I'd love to go home. I wanted to go home in the beginning.
This broadcast of Claudia was supervised and directed by William Brown Maloney. Happy New Year, friends. Your bottler of Coca-Cola and the cast of Claudia are happy to greet you on this first day of what we all hope will be a better year for the whole world. And we regard it as a privilege that we've been able to spend some time this happy holiday with you and your family. Every day, Monday through Friday, Claudia comes to you, transcribed, with the best wishes of your friendly neighbor who bottles Coca-Cola. So listen again tomorrow at the same time. And now this is Joe King saying au revoir. And remember, whoever you are, whatever you do, wherever you may be, when you think of refreshment, think of Coca-Cola. For ice-cold Coca-Cola makes any pause the pause that refreshes.
is Nightline, your open door to people and places, and this is Walter O'Keefe. Nightline invites you to listen in on NBC's award-winning science fiction series X-1.
Countdown for blast off. X-5, 4, 3, 2, X-1, fire. From the far horizons of the unknown come tales of new dimensions in time and space. These are stories of the future, adventures in which you'll live in a million, could be years, on 1,000 maybe worlds. The National Broadcasting Company, in cooperation with Galaxy Science Fiction Magazine, presents X-1. Tonight, Target 1. But first, hear this. The presents have been opened, the gifts enjoyed, and in the case of the kids, a few are already slightly battered. But NBC has one more holiday package for you, and it'll be delivered over this weekend on Monitor. There'll be the music of such bands as those of Guy Lombardo and Richard Maltby, punctuated by the antic commentary of Monitor's own Bob and Ray and Fibber McGee and Molly, and underscored by the up-to-the-minute reports of NBC's newsmen at home and abroad. From Friday night through Sunday midnight, Monitor will bring you another weekend of drama, music, news, and interviews. Of special interest to sports fans will be NBC's coverage of the Friday night fights, Saturday's blue-gray and north-south football games, and Sunday's National Football League championship game. Use and enjoy Monitor, your weekend radio service. Yes, start your weekend right with Monitor on Friday nights, and stay with Monitor all weekend long over most of these same NBC stations. Now, X-1 and tonight's story, Target 1.
Headquarters of the World Council was in the ruined United Nations building in New York. It took me an hour to reach it, picking my way across the red-colored rubble that had once been a proud city. I was ushered into the office of the president of the council, a former Russian scientist named Melkov. It was hard to realize that only a few decades ago, these people had helped us destroy the world in an atomic war that left less than 100,000 people on the face of the globe.
Come in. Dr. Marin.
Yes.
Good to see you, Doctor.
Sorry I'm 2 days late. I had to land at Boston. It's the only airport operating.
I understand. You want to sit down?
Thank you.
I suppose you are wondering what this is all about.
Very little surprises me, Mr. President.
Good. As you know, Doctor, the Great War of 1960 left very little of the human race. What it did leave, well, 2 billion corpses, 3 continents rotting and unlivable, and every survivor mutating. I believe you yourself have had children who could scarcely be called human. I'm sorry to be so blunt.
Why did you send for me, Mr. President?
Doctor, suppose I gave you an opportunity to do something extremely practical.
Such as?
A chance to prevent the destruction of our world, which took place 30 years ago.
To prevent what has happened? To stop an atomic war?
Yes. Would you do it?
I'd sell my soul to the devil, Mr. President.
You mean that?
Yes.
Doctor, what would you say was the most important scientific discovery of the 20th century?
I suppose Einstein's equation. E equals mc squared.
Exactly. This formula unlocked the atom. Without it, there would have been no atomic energy, and consequently, no bomb, no war.
The formula did not cause the war, Mr. President, nor did the man who discovered it. He was one of the finest human beings who ever lived. A man utterly dedicated to the pursuit of peace and harmony.
Yes, exactly. That is what will make your task so abhorrent, Doctor.
What is this task, Mr. President?
Quite simply, it is the murder of Albert Einstein.
Are you insane?
Perhaps. Only history will record that.
But how in the name of heaven Albert Einstein died in 1956?
I am well aware of that. In order to commit this murder, Doctor, you will have to travel back in time.
Travel back? You mean that...
I mean that our scientists have succeeded in their experiments. Parachronon penetration has been achieved.
It's fantastic.
Yes, so were atomic energy and rockets to the moon and radio waves long before both of those.
You're actually suggesting that I return to the early 20th century to commit a murder?
Yes.
But why Einstein? Why not the men who took his contributions and twisted them into ghastly inhuman weapons? Why not them?
Because others would replace them. There are many minds so filled with contempt for their own lives that they would be willing to destroy others, so warped with hate that they might even enjoy the job. No, it must be Einstein.
Well, then why me? Why not select some murderer, some fiend?
Because you are a man of the highest morality. This task must not be performed by some twisted monster. It must be done by a man of integrity who fully realizes his responsibility. To do otherwise would be to degrade ourselves and our victim. Come here, to the window. Do you see that covered barge lying in the East River?
Yes.
That barge is the finest laboratory we could assemble. Inside it is the mechanism for complete K-meson penetration, maintaining a stable configuration. In effect, it is a floating time machine.
You've tested it?
It was tested last week. Professor Milton Waxman went back 40 years in time and returned. We cannot afford another test because our energy sources are limited.
Will Waxman accompany me?
Yes. He and one other. Well, Doctor, what is your answer?
All right. I'll do it. That afternoon, I was taken aboard the barge in the East River. I was left alone in the laboratory to wait for Waxman, a physicist who knew how to operate the chronosphere. Waxman, who is this?
His name is John. John, this is Dr. Charles Moran.
I know the doctor.
I don't believe we've met.
In my business, I have to know a lot of people I've never met.
John is security.
I see.
He's going with us.
To see there's no mistake.
That's right, Doctor.
Very well. I don't suppose murderers can be choosy about their companions.
Before we go any further, here are some clothes that will be suitable to the time and place which is our destination. Please put them on, Doctor.
While you're changing, I'll give you some background on the subject. Born Ulm, Germany, 1879. German citizen, religion Jewish. Became a Swiss citizen after graduation from Zurich Polytechnical Institution. Later migrated to the United States after Adolf Hitler came to power, with a price set on his head by the Nazis. Nobel Prize for Physics, 1921. Copley Medal, 1925. Franklin, 1935. Personal habits.
Must we do this?
He's only doing his job. Go on, John.
Personal habits. Works in a bare room with only a pencil and paper. Enjoys sailing, smokes a pipe, never drinks, is a violinist of conservability.
All right, I'm ready.
Good. Now just strap yourself into the accelerator seat. Ready? Switch on. The sensation will be something akin to weightlessness, a disorientation and feeling of utter detachment. This will last until we have settled into a new orbital configuration. We will be able to monitor our time segment on the screen before us.
May I ask our objective?
Yes. The Polytechnicum at Zurich. Graduation ceremony in the year 1900.
So young.
He was already formulating the theory of relativity at this point, Doctor. We have no choice. It must be clean and thorough. Are you ready, gentlemen?
Yes.
Ready, Professor.
Hold on. We will begin to whirl until we reach speeds where K-meson penetration is possible. Now.
The sensation was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. I felt bodiless, weightless. My consciousness seemed to float free. I was dimly aware of Waxman at the monitoring controls, but otherwise I remember no sensation. Later he told me that it took exactly 1/2 hour to vector in on the right time and place. That was right after the whirling stopped.
Marin, are you all right?
Yes, I think so.
John?
I'm all right.
Where are we?
Well, according to the monitor, our barge is at a dockside on the lake of Zurich. The year should be 1900. The time is 2:00. We have exactly 1 hour to accomplish our mission. Open the hatchway, John. Well?
Fantastic. A different world.
We can't waste any time. The graduation ceremony's at 3. Now let's go.
Very well.
Just a moment, gentlemen. Here, take these.
What are they?
Guns. We'll need them.
We stepped ashore. It was strange to see the world green and happy again after our red radioactive ruins. Eventually, we located a policeman who spoke some English. He directed us to the auditorium of the Zurich Polytechnical Institute where the graduation ceremony was in progress.
Don't attract much attention. Take a seat in the rear.
And now, it gives me great pleasure to present the diplomas of graduation to the members of the graduating class of the Zurich Polytechnic Institute. First, Mr. Hans Kindler, cum laude.
Will you see him, John?
Not yet.
Next, Mr. Fritz.
We will have to wait until they call him to the platform.
Cum laude. Mr. Heinrich Weiss, valedictor.
Are you ready? Marin, you're the one who must do this. Are you ready?
What? Oh, yes. Yes, I am. I'm ready.
Mr. Albert Einstein.
That's him. Marin, shoot. Shoot.
I can't do it. I can't.
Give me that gun.
Come on. We've got to get out of the barge. Now, hurry.
Another few minutes.
What do you suppose it will be like?
What?
Our world, the one we left. Without atomic fission, I mean.
We'll soon know.
Well, one thing is for sure. There'll be no mass destruction. The people will be there.
The people. Good Lord, there'll be billions of them.
And the trees, the green shrubs, and the beautiful tall buildings. He looked very young.
We're vectoring in on our year. Now hang on when I start the negative penetration. Brace yourselves. According to calculations, we should be back in the East River on the same day we left. The world will be as it would have been if Einstein had never existed. Open the hatch, John.
Look at that. The city. New York is whole again. No ruins. No rubble.
Those buildings are magnificent. Look at the trees in the parks. Marlon, we've done it. It was worth it. We've done it.
Yes. We've done it. Suddenly, from nowhere, an official boat. A police boat. Suspicious of the barge and our parachronon penetration equipment, we were arrested by federal agents. The barge and our time machines confiscated. We were drugged, tortured, questioned interminably. It went on for what seemed like days and weeks. Finally, when they decided that they had had every shred of information we possessed, we were taken before a huge, beetle-browed man who seemed to be a combination scientist and civil authority.
Sit him down. Well, Dr. Marin, we seem to have exhausted the possibilities. Tell me, is there anything you and your companions wish to tell me before you're disposed of?
Disposed of?
A euphemism for murdered.
Murdered? Why, what have we done?
You haven't done anything yet. But you have a thorough knowledge of nuclear physics, fission reaction, hydrogen bombs, etc.
Lord, you mean you have the knowledge we tried to keep from you? You got it from us ourselves?
Don't flatter yourself, Doctor. We've known the principles of nuclear reaction ever since Cretchwood.
Cretchwood?
The Brazilian scientist. Discoverer of the equation E equals mc squared.
I see. Then, why are you going to destroy us?
Because, my friend, you're too dangerous. You know too much. Information could lead to our enemies. Important principles.
Enemies?
Oh, yes, I forgot. You have no knowledge of contemporary affairs. Beneath this building, deep in the earth, there is a thorium pile going.
Thorium? Oh, U-235?
Yeah, would be better, yes. Our scientists are working that out. The problem of separation and so on. It's a highly secret project, naturally. We call it only by the name Manhattan Project.
Manhattan? Oh, no, it couldn't be. It's too coincidental. Yet I see it's true. You're going through exactly the same steps. In a year, you'll have an atom bomb. Then soon after, a hydrogen bomb. Then intercontinental missiles, and then...
You seem to have great powers of prophecy, as well as great scientific knowledge.
My friend, did you ever hear of a man named Einstein? Albert Einstein?
Einstein? No. I never heard of him.
Then the futility of it struck me. The futility of trying to place the guilt of all of us on any one man. The futility of trying to do something worthwhile by evil means. And finally, the futility of trying to murder an idea. As they led me to the execution cell, where I now wait, the words of a man whose books were destroyed in the war rang in my brain. The fault, dear Brutus, lies not with our stars, but with ourselves.
Fred Collins again. I'll have another word about X-1 in just a moment.
Right how you feel, blue and miserable with a deep-down cold? Listen.
Every second someone takes it for the miseries of a cold. Millions more take bromoquinine. Every second someone takes it for the miseries of a cold. Bromoquinine.
More people have taken more bromoquinine cold tablets for more complete relief than any other cold tablet ever sold. You could use aspirin or cough syrups or nose drops all day and not get bromoquinine's relief. Bromoquinine works to relieve stopped-up nose, body aches, fever, irregularity, the blues, and headache, too. Yes, more complete relief for even virus colds. For bromoquinine is the only cold tablet sold with wonder-working quinine and 5 other medicines health-fortified with vitamin C. Remember,
every second someone takes it for the miseries of a cold. Millions more take bromoquinine.
Get bromoquinine brand cold tablets.
You have just heard X-1 presented by the National Broadcasting Company
in cooperation with Galaxy Science Fiction Magazine, which this month features Kill Me with Kindness by Richard Wilson. What would you do if you found yourself in a place where your every whim was granted? Don't worry. You wouldn't be the first to spoil utopia by attempting to improve it. Galaxy Magazine, on your newsstand today. Tonight, X-1 has brought you Target 1, a story from the pages of Galaxy written by Frederick Pohl and adapted for radio by George Lefferts. Featured in our cast were Joseph Bell as Dr. Marin, Frank Silvera as President Malkov, Dean Almquist as Professor Voxman, Al Collins as John, Guy Rep as the official, with Charles Webster. This is Fred Collins speaking. X-1 was directed by George Voutsas and is an NBC Radio Network production.
Countdown for blast off. X-5, 4, 3, 2, X-1, fire.
From the far horizons of the unknown come tales of new dimensions in time and space. These are stories of the future, adventures in which you'll live in a million, could be years, on 1,000 maybe worlds. The National Broadcasting Company presents X-1. Prime Difference. But first, hear this.
This is Bill Goodwin. You know, someone once said humor is the true democracy. And that's why we Americans can smile when we tell the stories of the legendary heroes who helped to build our country's great institutions and industries, like transcontinental transportation. Ever hear of Windwagon Smith? Well, in the early pioneering days, most of the traveling was done by ox team, and if folks covered 15 miles a day, they were doing good. That's about the time Windwagon Smith showed up with his Prairie Clipper. The Clipper was a wagon without any animals to pull it, but with a sail sticking up from the middle of the wagon. When the wind caught the sail, the wagon took off, and that's where Windwagon Smith got his name. He figured he might be able to cover as much as 70 miles a day with the Clipper, and folks began to figure it might be a good thing when Windwagon pointed out how fast the country was growing and how more transportation was needed to haul people and goods. Then he invited the United States Secretaries of War and the Navy to ride on the Clipper's maiden voyage. But disaster struck. The Clipper got out of control, the Secretary of War rolled out, and the Secretary of the Navy landed in a cactus patch. But Windwagon and the Clipper kept going and never stopped. As transportation grew in America, people all over the country claimed to have seen Windwagon Smith. He was in the pilot house of the first steamboat to sail up the Yellowstone. He held the Golden Spike when the first transcontinental railroad was completed. And when the first transcontinental plane roared out of Kansas City, it was Windwagon Smith, the spirit of American transportation, who waved the pilot on his way. Yes, it is a democracy which lets us tell stories of such legendary heroes with a twinkle in our eyes and a chuckle in our throats. And so long as we continue to laugh together as a people, ladies and gentlemen, we will live together as a nation.
Now, X-1 and Prime Difference.
I suppose every guy reaches a point once in his lifetime where he gets 140% fed up with his wife. Understand, now, I've got nothing against marriage. Marriage is great. A good, red-blooded American institution. Only it's so permanent. Especially when you're married to a woman like Marge. Ah, she was a dream to look at. Tawny hair and sulky gray eyes and a shape that could set your teeth chattering. But she had a tongue like a number 10 wood rasp.
and a list of grievances long enough to paper a ballroom.
Why do you always upset me in the morning when I've got a headache?
I'm not trying to upset
now,
you.
You deliberately...
I'm trying to have my coffee so I can go down to the office and earn a living.
A living? Go ahead. Run away. That's all you've done all our married life. Whenever there's something unpleasant to be faced, you run away.
I'd even forgotten what the unpleasant something was.
Well, then I'll remind you. It's your own selfish, indulgent nature. Staying out till after midnight when I was here waiting and suffering.
I was working. I was at the office working.
I know you were at the office, dear. I phoned, remember?
Well, then what in blazes?
Only you weren't working. Your breath
Oh, listen. I fired Miss Carver. She was okay, but I fired her for you. It was her last day. We all had a couple of drinks, that's all. Maybe we just weren't meant for each other. I don't know. If we'd been living back in the blissful 50s, I might have divorced her. But this was 1974. And what with the Family Togetherness Act of 68 and the Agreed Spouse Compensation Act of 69, I'd have been an outcast and a pauper for the rest of my life. So you can't really blame me, can you, for looking for another way out, I mean? Oh, come. Oh, hi, Harry boy.
Say, George, I just dug your new secretary out in the waiting room.
Oh, is she here already?
Ooh, boy. I tell you, if I had a secretary like that, the first thing I'd do is go out and get myself an Ego Prime.
A what?
An Ego Prime, a duplicate of myself to send home to the wife evenings.
You know, that's strictly against the law, Harry.
So speeding, but everybody does it.
Well, anyway, I wouldn't think of it. It's indecent.
Well, it's just joking, Georgie boy, just joking. Still, it's fun to think about, huh? Freedom from wife. Absolutely safe and harmless. Not even too expensive if you have the right contacts.
Well, you're coming.
Mr. Faircloth?
Yes.
I'm Jerry Lamont, your new secretary.
What did I tell you, Georgie boy?
Harry, if you don't mind, I'd like to get right down to work with Miss Lamont. Excuse us.
Why not? Don't forget what we were talking about, huh, Georgie? I happen to know a fellow with just the right contacts for that deal.
Yeah, sure. So long, Harry.
So long. Bye, Miss Lamont.
Bye.
Well, glad to have you aboard, Miss Lamont.
Oh, Miss Lamont is so formal. Mr. Blickendorf called me Jerry when I worked for him.
Oh, Hank Blickendorf?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you must be the girl You must have accompanied him on his business trip to Rio.
Yes.
Well, he spoke very highly of you. I'm sure we'll get along just fine.
Well, I feel the same way. I prefer working for a younger man than Mr. Blickendorf, anyway.
When I came home to dinner that night, Marge was waiting with a full barrage. She let me get my first bite of dinner halfway to my mouth and then opened up.
Well, I hear you got a new secretary today.
Yeah.
I also hear she's 5'8" and tapes out at 38, 25, 36, and likes men.
That's quite a spy system you've got there.
She isn't much of a secretary either.
She's a perfectly good secretary.
Well, that isn't what Molly Blickendorf said.
I don't care what Molly Blickendorf said.
Now, where are you going?
I have to make a business call. I forgot.
Well, I suppose it would be too much to expect you to do your work at the office with that...
Harry? George Faircloth. Listen, Harry, you know that conversation we had this afternoon? Could you put me in touch with your friend? Yes, as soon as possible. The following evening, I found myself at the door of a dingy office in an ancient warehouse up near 14th Street. A little rodent of a man answered.
Yes, brother?
I'm George Faircloth. Harry sent me.
Oh, yes. Step inside, brother.
I've been told you can supply me with...
Yes, brother. It might be possible. We get quite a few busy executives who are in a hurry. Can't be bothered with licensing a utility prime.
Mister, if I wanted an ordinary utility prime, I wouldn't have hiked up here. I'd have picked up the phone and ordered it. I want a super deluxe ego prime with all the circuits open. In short, a carbon copy of me, George Faircloth.
Well, just step back here, brother. Fine. These domestic situations can be awkward. You understand, if the feds find out about this, you're in as much trouble as we are.
I'm more worried about my wife finding out.
Ease your mind, brother. We've never had one yet. Except for that little shut-off control in the hair behind the ear, these ego primes are identical with living humans. Now, if you'll just step back into the lab and take your clothes off, we'll start.
I spent a busy 2 hours under the NP microprobes. The artists worked outside, taking casts and impressions, while the technicians worked inside, feeding all my brain patterns into a Hunyadi pantograph. I came out of it pretty woozy, but a shot of Happy O fixed that. Then I waited in the recovery room until the salesman walked in, followed by a tall, sandy-haired man with tired blue eyes wearing a business suit, who looked remarkably like me.
Mr. Faircloth?
Yes?
Meet Mr. Faircloth, Prime.
So, this is me. Shake, George. Why, he even talks like me. I ought to. I've got a dozen Hunyadi tubes in my cranial vault with your speech patterns on them. I'll be doggone.
Nice job, eh?
Well, it's fantastic.
Now, the shut-off mechanism is behind his right ear. Now, bring him in every 2 months for the regular 2-month refill and pattern accommodation.
Let me get a few things straight. How do we change places?
George Prime has remote recall. You just signal him with this transmitter, and he'll come to you wherever you are.
Oh, good. Suppose I call you GP for George Prime. Okay with me, George. Right.
Now, there's the matter of the check.
Oh, yes, right here. Yeah, all made out.
Good. Well, thank you. And good luck.
Okay. Well, let's go, GP. I'd like you to meet the little woman. Half an hour later, George Prime put my pipe in his mouth and walked into the house. I stayed out in my workshop in the garage and listened. 5 minutes later, they were fighting. It sounded so familiar, I laughed out loud. Then I caught a cab and headed uptown toward Jerry's place. We had quite an evening, and I rolled in just as George Prime was starting the car, business suit and briefcase, ready for work. I slipped into the garage. Hey, hold it. Oh, you're back. How'd it go, huh? Whew. Boy, you didn't tell me you were married to a female Bengal tiger. Well, she didn't suspect it, she? Oh, of course not. Well, what'd you do? Well, fought till about 1 a.m., then went to our respective corners and sulked. You think you can handle it? Listen, she's really a sweet girl underneath. Now, I'll be so attentive and sweet, she'll soften up. You wait and see. Well, don't overdo it. She is my wife, you know. Naturally. Now, you're sure you understand the recall signal? Perfectly. When you buzz the recall, I wait for the first logical opportunity to join you, and then you take over. Right. Now, climb into the trunk here, and I'll shut you off and lock you in. Righto. Well, I'll see you tonight, old man. I'll see you tonight, George. I could go on at some length about my exploits, but I won't. In the end, it was like buying a 3-dimension TV set. After a week or two, the novelty starts to wear off. Well, I got it down to where Tuesday and Thursday nights I was informally out while formally in. The rest of the time, George Prime was in the box. Well, Marge didn't suspect a thing. In fact, George Prime was having a remarkable effect on her.
Oh, that you, George?
Yeah?
Hello. Oh, you look tired. Have a hard day?
Well, now that you mention it, yeah, I did. Yeah.
Why don't you sit down and relax? I fixed a martini before dinner.
That sounds like a splendid idea. Are you all right?
I'm fine. Why?
Nothing.
Well, what are you looking at?
You've done something to your hair or something.
You like it?
Yes. You know, I've always thought you were a darn beautiful woman.
Well, thank you, Mr. Faircloth. You know, you're not so bad yourself since you stopped scowling and snapping.
I guess that's a compliment, huh?
George, isn't it about time we stopped clawing each other?
It's what I've always wanted, Marge.
So have I. And, well, you've changed so much recently.
What changed?
Well, you know, you've been less irritable and more considerate and so much more vital. Oh, you know what I mean.
Yeah, I'm afraid I do.
George.
Yeah?
Look, let's have dinner and some wine and spend a nice evening together, like we used to when we were first married.
That sounds fine. Holy smokes. Hey, what time is it?
It's 7:30. Why?
Well, listen, I have to run down to the corner for some tobacco. I wouldn't want to spend a relaxing evening without tobacco, you know.
But there's some in your holder.
Well, I want something fresh. You chill the wine. I won't be a minute.
All right, dear, and hurry back.
I'd forgotten all about my date with Jerry. Actually, I didn't want to keep it. The idea of spending a quiet evening with Marge was really appealing for a change. But I had to run over and explain to Jerry, so I sent George Prime in to keep Marge company till I got back, which was about midnight. As I walked down the path, I looked in the window. George Prime was there, and he was kissing my wife the way I hadn't kissed her in years, and she wasn't exactly fighting him off either. I almost wore off my thumb on that recall button before he came out to the garage. You there, George? It's me, GP. Well, it's about time. I'm sorry, old man. Sorry. Look, I saw what was going on in there. Well, you know, old bean, I am a Super Deluxe model. I should say you are. First thing tomorrow, big boy, I'm taking you in to have your circuits rewired. Look, aren't you being a little overly jealous? No, I mean for a man who wanted to get rid of his wife. I never said that. Well, I could never understand it personally. Listen. She's the one who's going to be suspicious if I don't get back there. Now, you give me that dressing gown and you get back to that box. Tomorrow morning, back to the factory. Marge was waiting for me. And one of those flimsy things that I'd given her when we were first married. I must say she looked so charming and lovely that my heart just melted. And still I was overwhelmed with a sense of guilt, and I wanted to tell her what I'd done.
You finally got back. I thought you'd never get here.
Oh, my. You look ravishing.
That's the idea.
Marge, listen, I've got to tell you something, and before I do, I want you to know that in spite of the cad I've been, I do love you. I always have.
I know that. And you don't have to tell me anything.
Oh, this is important. And it'll shock you. In fact, you may never speak to me.
I know what you're going to tell me.
You mean?
About George Prime.
Great Scott, you knew.
Well, of course, George. Now, you don't think I could be fooled by something out of the lab, do you?
You've known all along?
All along.
Oh, Marge. Then tomorrow morning, we'll send that stuffed dummy back to the factory. And then we'll live the way we've always wanted.
Oh, yes, dearest. The way we've always wanted.
I just don't know where to begin.
Then why not begin by just kissing me?
I kissed her tenderly, and her lips were softer and more responsive than I've ever known them. Yes, she'd certainly changed. I turned out the lamp. I ran my fingers through her fragrant tawny hair. My thumb stopped at a little depression behind her ear. And then suddenly, I knew what had happened. It was a turn-off switch, of course. And I, George Faircloth, was now married to Marge Prime.
X-1 has brought you Prime Difference, written by Alan E. Norse and adapted for radio by George Lefferts. Featured in our cast were Lawson Zerbe as George and George Prime, Anne Loring as Marge, Evelyn Jester as Jerry, Merrill Joels as the salesman, and John Thomas as Harry. This is Fred Collins. X-1 was directed by George Voutsas and is an NBC Radio Network production.
We pause now for station identification.
Countdown for blast off. X-5, 4, 3, 2, X-1, fire.
From the far horizons of the unknown come tales of new dimensions in time and space. These are stories of the future, adventures in which you'll live in a million, could be years, on 1,000 maybe worlds. The National Broadcasting Company, in cooperation with Galaxy Science Fiction Magazine, presents X minus 1. Tonight, gray flannel armor. Now, X-1 and part 1 of Gray Flannel Armor.
My name is Thomas Hanley, and my case history is of particular interest to anthropologists, sociologists, and students of the bizarre. In its humble way, it serves as an example of one of the more obscure mating customs of the late 20th century. To begin with, I own several gray flannel suits and many slim neckties with regimental stripes. Millions of us roam the streets of our great cities, footsteps firm and hurried, eyes front, voices lowered, dressed to the point of invisibility. But inside, I fairly seethed with romantic ideas of swinging cutlasses, of beautiful damsels, their hair shimmering in the moonlight. In short, let's face it, I was a romanticist. But romance is a commodity difficult to come by in the great cities. Life is too impersonal, too busy, too standardized. This particular Friday night, I returned from my office to my one-room apartment and prepared to face another long, dull weekend. Then the doorbell rang.
Good evening, Mr. Hanley.
If you're collecting for something, come back after payday.
My friend, I am Joe Morris, a representative of the New York Romance Service. Main offices in the Empire State Building and branches in all 5 boroughs, Westchester and New Jersey.
You must have the wrong party.
Oh, no, Mr. Hanley. We're out to serve lonely people, and that means you. Don't deny it now. Why else would you be sitting home on a Friday night?
Well, the fact is...
You're lonely, and it's our business and our pleasure to serve you.
Serve me with what?
A bright, sensitive, good-looking fellow like yourself needs girls.
Girls?
Nice girls. Now, these young ladies I was referring to, Mr. Hanley, are not, professionals. They are sweet, normal, romantically inclined young ladies. But they are lonely. There are many lonely girls in our city, Mr. Hanley.
Oh, yes, I suppose there are. Funny, you never think of it that way. I mean, if you're not a girl.
True. Now, the purpose of the New York Romance Service is to bring young people together under suitable circumstances.
Oh, I see. A kind of, you'll pardon the expression, a kind of friendship club?
I should say not. We at the New York Romance have done what should have been done years ago. We have applied scientific precision and technological know-how to a thorough study of the factors essential to a successful meeting between the sexes.
Factors? What factors?
The most vital ones, my friend, are spontaneity and a sense of fatedness.
Oh, well, spontaneity and fate are contradictory terms.
Certainly. Romance, by its very nature, must be composed of contradictory elements. We have graphs to prove it.
Are you saying that you sell romance?
The very article. The pure and pristine substance itself. Mind you, I didn't say love. I didn't say common animal passion. I said romance. The missing ingredient, Mr. Handley, in modern society. The spice of life. The vision of all the ages. That is what we sell.
Very interesting. If I'm ever in the market, I'll get in touch with you.
Oh, just a minute, sir. Try our system for a few days, absolutely free of charge. Here. Put this in your lapel.
Oh? Well, what is this thing? It looks like a small transistor radio with a tiny video eye.
As it happens, it is a small transistor radio with a tiny video eye.
Oh? What does it do?
You'll see. Just give it a try. Remember, romances sponsored by our firm are fated, spontaneous, aesthetically satisfying, and morally justifiable.
Well, all right, Mr. Morris. I'll accept the free trial offer. Wear this in my lapel, you say?
In the lapel.
Well, all right. There it is.
Happy romance, Mr. Handley.
You're listening to The Gray Flannel Armor, tonight's attraction on X-1. Now X-1 brings you Act 2 of Gray Flannel Armor.
After Joe Morris left me, I took off my gray flannel jacket and examined the small device attached to my lapel. It had no knobs or controls. It didn't seem to do anything at all. I shrugged, put my jacket on again, tightened the Windsor knot in my tie, and went for a walk. It was a clear, cool night. Like most nights in my life, it was a perfect time for romance. Around me lay the city, infinite in its possibilities and rich in its promise. But it was devoid of fulfillment. Nothing ever happened. I passed lighted apartment buildings and thought of the women behind the high blank windows, looking down and seeing a lonely walker on the dark streets. Wondering about me, maybe, as I was wondering about them.
Nice to be on the roof of a building, to look down on the city.
Huh? Who said that? I wonder... Oh, sure. This transistor thing. Hey, what was that you said about a roof? Oh, I guess it isn't two-way. Well, it's not a bad idea, though. Would be kind of pleasant to look down on the city life.
No. Not that one.
Well, what's wrong? Oh, sure. Wrong building. You mean this one over here? Oh, no answer again. Well, it must be the right one this time. At least I hope so. I walked into the lobby, and I remember thinking how you had to hand it to New York romances. They seemed to know what they were doing. I took the self-service elevator to the top floor. From there, I walked up a flight of stairs to the roof. Well, the air smells good up here, at least.
No, not that side. The west side.
Okay. I hope you know what you're doing. I certainly don't. This turns out to be some sort of joke. Oh.
Hello.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to intrude.
You're not intruding.
Well, I didn't see you at first there in the shadows.
I know.
The lights. Mention the lights.
Those lights. The lights of the city down there. They're beautiful.
Yes, like a great carpet of stars, or spear points in the gloom.
Like sentinels keeping eternal vigil in the night.
Like sentinels keeping eternal vigil in the night.
Take her in your arms.
Take her...
What?
Oh, nothing. Nothing, a mistake. Come here to me.
Yes. Yes.
As she was melting in my arms, I caught sight of the small transistor set pinned to her shoulder strap. The one exactly like the one in my lapel. You can't help feeling a little odd about a romantic meeting set up and sponsored by transistor radios. I could visualize a million young men in gray flannel suits roaming the streets in response to barely heard commands from a million tiny radios. I tried to forget my doubts. The next night I took another walk and found myself in a slum section of the city. I decided I'd made a mistake and started to turn around.
Why not walk on?
Huh? You want me to walk down this alley? Oh, well. Oh, good night. Two mothers after a girl. I better look for a policeman.
Why do that? You can handle them.
No, a policeman can do a lot better.
No, you must do it now.
But there's two men. They're probably armed.
You can do it.
Well, here goes. Now, wait a minute. You rats! There! Take that! That'll teach you to harm a helpless girl.
You saved me. You saved my life.
I had to come.
I had to come.
Yes, I know.
Take her in your arms.
Yes, I know. I swept her into my arms and we embraced there in the darkened alleyway. As I held her close, my cheek brushed a shining jewel in her raven black hair. I had to look twice to recognize it, but sure enough, it was a tiny transistor receiver just like mine. I was suddenly angry. Oh, the girl was lovely, there was no denying that. And the circumstances were undeniably romantic until you realized that it was all a kind of cheap play. Faded and spontaneous, that was a joke. Angrily, I tore the transistor from my lapel and threw it into the nearest garbage can. I stalked away into the night, hardly realizing where I was going. I didn't really wake up until I reached the waterfront. I stood there looking at the oily black water and let the brackish-scented breeze fan my face. And then, unexpectedly, I was aware of another person nearby. The moon slid from behind a cloud, and her auburn-tinted hair caught its light and held it for a moment. She turned her face toward me with frank curiosity. At this time, there was no transistor radio to throw me a cue. I didn't need one. It's a nice night.
Maybe. Maybe not.
The beauty is there, if you care to see it.
What a strange thing to say.
Is it? Is it really so strange? Is it strange that I'm here at this very moment, and that you're here too?
Perhaps not. No, perhaps not.
Let me look at you. Oh, you're really beautiful, you know.
Am I?
You know you are. You're lovely.
Do you really like me?
Like you? If I could only tell you.
Oh, I'm so glad. You see, I'm your free introductory romance, given you as a sample by Greater Romance Industries. What? With home offices in Newark, New Jersey. You see, only our firm offers romances which are truly spontaneous and fated.
Spontaneous and fated?
Due to our technological researches, we are able to dispense with such clumsy apparatus as transistor radios and... Sir, where are you going?
I was sick and disgusted. After that, there were several other attempts to get in touch with me, but I ignored them. I wanted no more to do with the romance game. In a couple of days, I called up a twittering aunt of mine, and she arranged a blind date for me with the daughter of one of her oldest friends. The blind date was a nice, friendly girl with plain, mousy brown hair. We were introduced in my aunt's living room, and we sat out on her sun porch and talked.
So you're Tom Hanley.
Yeah, I guess I am.
Your aunt has told me a lot about you. You work in advertising, don't you?
Yes, that's right. Madison Avenue.
Oh, I think that's thrilling. Advertising, I mean. It's such an interesting field.
Well, we like to think so.
Yes, I imagine you do all right.
Seems like, it's warmer this evening, doesn't it?
Yes, it is. Although I don't mind the cooler weather so much. Lots of people complain about it, but I don't mind.
Well, I don't either, I guess. As long as you're dressed for it.
Yes, I suppose that's the secret.
Oh, I was just thinking, do you like bowling?
Oh, I don't know. I've never bowled.
Oh.
Do you like tennis? I'm crazy about tennis.
Oh, tennis is all right. Yeah. I guess you could say tennis is fine.
I'm crazy about it.
Well, all right. So it wasn't romantic. At least it wasn't at first. But there must have been something about it. We began to hit it off, and we had more dates, and one thing led to another, and the first thing you know, darned if we didn't get married. Yes, that's the story of my courtship. Of course, it isn't the whole story. At least, if you're making a case history, you have to know the important things. And to my mind, one of the most important of all happened after we were married. We bought a nice little house out near my aunt's and settled down in it. Then, one Saturday morning, I was out cutting the lawn. Hi there. Huh? Did you say something?
I said hi. Don't you remember me? Joe Morris.
Oh, sure. New York romances. Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Morris, but you better take me off the list. I'm married now.
Certainly. I know all about it. Congratulations.
Oh, thanks.
I mean, I know all about the way it happened. Introduced by your aunt, talking on the sun porch. It's corny, old-fashioned stuff. And now, don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking it. Quite the contrary. Do you know what we down at New York Romancers call this?
No, what?
Hanley's Mode. We studied you. A lot of commercial possibilities there. We've got it down on graphs. Effects of embarrassment on the psyche. The role of the aunt in American courtship. The whole works.
What are you talking about?
New York Romancers. What else? We've got a new service. It's called the Old-Fashioned Plan.
The what?
We provide bonded aunts for young men to call up. We even have the aunt walk into the sun parlor at unexpected intervals with a plate of cookies or something. They say the suspense becomes almost overpowering. Like our motto always said, spontaneity and a sense of fatedness. It never misses, my boy. Never misses.
Fred Collins again, and I'll have another word about X-1 in a moment. Have you caught one? A bad cold, nose all stuffed up, feeling achy, miserable? Then hear this. More people have taken more bromoquinine for more complete relief than with any other tablet ever sold for colds. You could use aspirin, cough syrups, or nose drops all day long and not get bromoquinine's relief. Because bromoquinine does more. Works to relieve stopped-up nose, body aches, fever, irregularity, that blue feeling a cold brings, and the headache, too. Yes, more relief, even for virus colds. And the reason? Bromoquinine is the only cold tablet sold with wonder-working quinine combined with 5 other medicines and health fortified with vitamin C. That's why bromoquinine cold tablets give you more complete relief. Remember,
every second someone takes it for the miseries of a cold. Millions more take bromoquinine.
Get the tablets that have relieved more cold discomforts than any other. Get bromoquinine brand cold tablets. You have just heard X-1 presented by the National Broadcasting Company in cooperation with Galaxy Science Fiction Magazine, which this month features The Repairman by Harry Harrison. Being an interstellar troubleshooter wouldn't be so bad if only you could shoot the trouble. Galaxy Magazine on your newsstand today. X-1 has brought you Gray Flannel Armor, a story from the pages of Galaxy written by Finn O'Donovan and adapted for radio by William Welch. Featured in our cast were William Redfield as Thomas Hanley and Guy Rep as Joe Morris. Others in our cast were Abby Lewis, Pat Harsley, Eddie Galen, Freddie Chandler, and Helen Gerald. This is Fred Collins speaking. This broadcast concludes this series of X-1. We sincerely hope you enjoyed it. X-1 was directed by George Voutsas and is an NBC Radio Network production.
The magic island of Euclidia is over 4,000 miles from Los Angeles, California. And now our friends of the Adventuring Gregory Party are just that far from the magic island. Yes, they're safely home at last. However, as well as we've learned to know Mrs. Gregory, her daughter Joan, Jerry Hall, and Captain Bradford, it doesn't seem likely that they'll stay safely at home very long. In fact, as we pick up the story now at Mrs. Gregory's mansion in Los Angeles, plans are being discussed which haven't anything to do with staying home and being safe. Captain Bradford, Mrs. Gregory, and Joan are talking in the library while waiting for Jerry to join them.
But, Mother, why must we hurry about our plans to return to Euclidia?
Because, Joan, dear, the Euclideans are hurrying with whatever plans they're making about us.
I will concede that.
And another thing, Joan, which is not as apparent to you as it is to us. Something has to be done about that island, and done quickly, or it'll be too late.
Too late for what, Captain Bradford?
Too late to prevent those scientists bringing all their inventions to this country and doing as they please.
And would that be such a terrible thing?
Yes, Joan, it would.
But, Mother,
I know what you're going to say. The Euclideans know far more than we do when they would help the world with all their marvelous discoveries.
Precisely, and that is true.
Granted that they could introduce a culture, an advanced education which the world needs badly. I still feel that their methods in bringing this education to us might be a little too drastic for a majority of the population.
You do not want to see your people educated, Captain?
It isn't that, Joan.
Of course it isn't. And let me remind you of one very vital thing you appear to have overlooked. There are a great many kinds of scientific education we can do nicely without. Now, for example, I think most people prefer sitting down to a good meal, to one of those concentrated food tablets we had on board the submarine.
Yet you admitted the concentrated food pellets provided adequate nourishment.
Sure they did, Joan, and they certainly served their purpose, but that was an emergency.
Exactly. And everything done on Euclidia is the same. Your airplanes can fly 1,000 miles an hour, but except for emergencies, no one has any reason to fly 1,000 miles an hour.
Suppose another country would attempt to take over the control of this country. Would you not like to have some 1,000-mile-an-hour planes then?
Well, naturally, but that's another emergency. War isn't a continual state of affairs. What your mother is trying to explain to you is that too much knowledge, too much speed, too much perfection rob us of many of the leisurely, pleasant ways of living, which are, after all, the only pleasures in living.
I must confess, I do not see it as you do.
You will, dear. after you've seen and enjoyed more of the pleasures in our world.
I should like that. But how am I to enjoy those pleasures if we are immediately going to organize an expedition and return to Euclidia?
Jerry will be able to take you around and show you a great many things, Joan. And even though you know far more than any of your instructors will be able to tell you, I want you to attend school.
School? I am to be taught to read and write when I have known that since I was 3 years old?
Not quite that bad, Joan. Jerry has another year of high school to complete. And your mother and I thought it would be nice if you went with Jerry. I'm sure we could arrange to have you admitted.
High school? What is a high school?
Well, I think you'd better form your own conclusions about that. At any rate, you will remain here in school. I'll have a housekeeper and guardian look after your interests while Tex and I are gone.
You and the captain are going where?
Back to Euclidia. We've got to take charge of that place, Joan. Put those scientists under some sort of regulation where their discoveries can be used only for good and protect the world against any wild ideas they might have.
But you would not go back there without Jerry and me.
Yes, Joan, dear. You and Jerry must stay here.
Why should we stay here?
Oh, many reasons. Your safety, for one.
But what of your safety?
Oh, I'll be safe enough. Tex and I are going to take along sufficient equipment to ensure our safety. And we'll turn the tables on Euclidia this time.
Yes, don't worry about us, Joan. We'll be as safe as we would be right here at home.
You are very definite about that.
Why, of course, Joan. We'll be perfectly safe.
Then why would not I be safe with you?
What?
If you will be safe, why would I not be safe with you?
Yes, of course. I think if you'll excuse me, Pat, I'll run along.
Oh, no, you'll do nothing of the kind. Sit right down here and help me get out of this.
You will not be able to extricate yourselves so easily. The fact remains that if you will be safe on a trip to Euclidia, I will be equally safe.
Well, there's a certain amount of risk connected with any such expedition.
And we feel that you and Jerry will be safer at home.
Would you not be safer at home?
Why, yes, I suppose we would.
Then I do not want you to go.
You what?
I do not want Mother to go if she will be in danger.
But, Joan, I am your mother, and I will say what we will and will not do.
That I do not like about your world. Older people are always allowed to do as they please, even if they are wrong, while younger ones are forbidden to do the things that are quite safe, proper, and harmless.
Well, now, Joan, you're getting into the oldest discussion known to modern parents and teachers. No one has ever settled it to anyone's satisfaction yet.
I realize that your training on that strange island has given you a great many ideas which do not fit in any too well with the conditions as you'll find them here. But I think I can explain why parents are allowed to give orders to their children and why children should obey.
I will be very glad to hear your reason, Mother.
Well, as I see it, parents give orders and children respect their wishes. Not because parents are so wonderfully smart or have any more rights than the children, but simply because parents are older and their judgment should be better in a majority of cases. Parents make mistakes, lots of them. But their mistakes should be fewer because of their greater experience.
That is entirely reasonable, and I can understand how that might hold true in your world.
Good for you, Pat. You sure made that clearer than I would have. Now, are you satisfied that your mother is competent to arrange your activities, Joan?
While we are living here, yes. But on a trip to Euclidia, no.
But, Joan, dear...
The situation is entirely reversed, Mother. On matters pertaining to the island, my judgment is better than yours.
Now, where do we go from here?
I give up, Tex. You'll have to try it again tomorrow.
I thought Jerry was coming over tonight.
Jerry is to be here at 7 o'clock.
He'd better hurry. It's 1 minute of 7.
Then he will be here in 60 seconds.
I'm afraid, my dear, that you won't find things in our world running exactly on schedule as they did on the Magic Island.
Why should they not?
Time isn't quite as precious around here.
But Jerry said that he wanted very much to see me. And if he wanted that so very much, he would be on time to look at me.
Well, perhaps you'll learn that a young lady can't always depend on all a young man says.
I do not like that. 7 o'clock was the time agreed upon, and I shall expect to see Jerry at 7.
Well, I hope for Jerry's sake he gets here on time.
But after all, Joan, dear, the time is not so very important.
Indeed it is. Jerry is going to take me to a motion picture show.
I don't know about that.
Decidedly not.
But, Mother, you said Jerry might show me some of the things he enjoys so much.
Yes, and at the right time, you may see them all, but not tonight.
What reason have you for that?
Well, we're being watched a little too closely now. And there's 7 o'clock. Looks as if Jerry had played you false.
Jerry will be here.
Hello, everybody. Here I am, right on the dot.
Figured it mighty close, though, Jerry.
Well, how come? I said 7, and the clock was just striking as Johnson showed me to this room.
Now, what is your opinion as to Jerry's punctuality?
Better than I had hoped for. Won't you sit down, Jerry?
Oh, thanks. Gee, but you look nice, Mrs. Gregory.
Thank you, Jerry.
Do I not look nice, Jerry?
You're off to a bad start, son.
Oh, sure, you look nice. But, well, so does your mother. She comes first.
There, Joan. Now, that's a good example of what we were discussing. Jerry came to see you. We all know his interest is more in you than the rest of us. Yet he addressed me first simply because I'm older.
No, I didn't. I said it because you look nice. I couldn't see anything else.
Jerry.
Go right ahead along those lines, boy, and Joan will ask Johnson to throw you out.
Well, gee, you know what I mean.
Oh, of course, Jerry. Now, you two forget your eternal quarreling for a few minutes and listen to what Tex and I have to say.
Oh, sure, Mrs. Gregory. But we got to go pretty quick, or it's going to make it too late to go to a show.
We are not going to a show.
Huh? What's wrong?
Nothing definite, but Tex and I have decided that it's not any too wise to allow you youngsters to run around at night just now.
Is that not silly, Jerry?
Well, it sure makes me feel like a baby, but maybe there's a reason for it.
There is, and a good one. Don't forget that there's one of the Euclidean scientists running around loose in this town. Or at least he was the last time we heard anything about him.
You refer to Thales?
Yes, dear, that Euclidean electrical wizard.
And you think Thales might try to do something to Joan or me?
Don't you think he might?
Well, yes. I guess so.
Jerry, I am disappointed in you.
Joan, don't forget that these Euclideans are still after my formula. Don't forget that they may not feel any too kindly disposed towards us after we left a couple of their submarines helpless out in the Catalina Channel. And above all, don't forget that they know we're planning another expedition to the island.
Oh, I know all that. Well, I guess you're right. We ought to stick pretty close together until this thing is over with.
If the danger is as great as that, why was it not dangerous for Jerry to come over here tonight alone?
Well, it was dangerous, Joan, and I should have thought of that during the day.
Well, you're here now, Jerry, and we'll see that you get home all right. But in the meantime, suppose we do a little planning.
About what?
Our return to Euclidia. You and Joan might have a lot of ideas that would prove helpful to us.
Yeah, and this time we'll know a lot more about what we're running into, won't we?
Jerry?
Yes, Mrs. Gregory?
Well, I know this isn't going to be pleasant news to you, or at least you'll think it isn't. But you won't be going with us when we return to the island.
Huh? I mean, what?
That is what Mother and the Captain have told me, Jerry. You and I are not to be allowed to accompany them on their trip to Euclidia.
But, gee, why not?
Too dangerous, Jerry, and you should be in school.
Oh, but it's just as dangerous for you folks.
That was my argument.
Joan will remain here, and you may spend as much time with her as your studies will permit, Jerry. But even here, you must be very careful.
Remember that there is at least one Euclidean in California, and he might decide to strike at you and Joan after we're gone.
Well, you bet he might. And that's why I think Joan and I'd be a lot safer if we were with you.
Now, Jerry...
Yes, Mother, Jerry is quite correct. It would be most unwise to leave us here.
Nevertheless, we're going to do just that.
But what if somebody kidnaps Joan while you're gone?
That's your job, Jerry, to see that nothing of the sort happens.
That is not fair to Jerry. It is entirely too much of a responsibility for one so young.
Huh? Hey, how old do you think you are?
I know that I am right. It is not wise for us to remain here.
Well, we'll be the judges of that, Joan.
Well, Mrs. Gregory, I'm not trying to be rude, and I know that you're trying to do what you think is best for Joan and me. But we could be a lot of good to you. And if you leave us behind, well, we'll get a boat of our own and come down there anyway.
Steady, Jerry.
Jerry is correct. He does not mean to be disrespectful to either of you. But our place is with your expedition. And with your permission, or without it, we will return to Euclidia.
Joan, dear, do you realize what you're saying?
Oh, sure she does, Mrs. Gregory. We'll do anything you say. And we don't mean to be arguing with older people. But I'm going back to that magic island if I have to walk back.
14 years ago, Joan Gregory was lost in a shipwreck in the South Pacific Ocean. And 14 years her mother spent searching for her the world over. When Joan was found on the magic island, a strange place which the scientists living there have named Euclidia, it seemed that Mrs. Gregory's troubles were at an end. Now, however, we find that this is not the case, as the island of Euclidia contains so many powerful and unusual scientific devices and discoveries that it must be captured and its knowledge turned over to the world at large. Mrs. Gregory and Captain Bradford have decided to return to the island and take it over, using the captain's formula for the universal solvent as a weapon. Jerry and Joan are not to be taken along. And we'll see what Jerry and Joan think of that idea as we find them sitting on a bench on the corner of Hollywood and Vine in Hollywood.
Well, Joan, what do you think of it?
What do I think of what?
Oh, Hollywood.
It is very nice.
Is that all?
What did you expect me to say?
Oh, that it was swell and the greatest place you ever saw and all that kind of talk.
I could not well say that, Jerry.
Well, why not?
How could I compare Hollywood with other places when it is the only place, except for Euclidia, that I have ever seen?
Yeah, I guess that's right.
Of course it is right.
Well, even if you can't tell whether it's better than any other place, you know if you like it or not, don't you?
I have said I liked it very much.
Yeah, you sound like it.
Jerry, you are a very strange person.
Huh?
You expect everyone to become wildly enthusiastic about anything you show them. Perhaps I am not as greatly impressed as you would wish.
Well, you ought to be. Look at all the automobiles scooting around here. What about that? You didn't have any cars on Euclidia.
We had no need for them. However, if the Euclideans were in charge of these passageways...
Hey, wait a minute. These things are streets, not passageways.
Very well, streets. If the Euclideans were in charge of these streets, there would be some semblance of order maintained. The manner in which various vehicles dash around each other is very poorly controlled.
Okay. Nobody likes the traffic any better than you do, but nobody's been able to figure out how to handle it any other way.
I believe I could suggest a plan.
You could?
Certainly.
Well, if you can do that, you'll find the police will give you a medal.
That does not sound correct.
Why? What's wrong with that?
A moment ago, you showed me a police officer arresting a man.
Well, yeah, sure. They arrest you if you do something wrong, but they can be mighty nice to you if you do something right, too.
I wonder if I will ever understand this strange country.
This strange country? After living on that crazy island, you think this country is strange?
On Euclidia, everything was well-ordered, regular, and perfectly controlled. While here, everyone seems to be doing much as they please.
Well, why not? This is a free country.
But everything is so carelessly done.
What's wrong now?
That lunch we had.
Lunch? What was the matter with it?
We ate it without the slightest regard for what our previous meal had been. You made no attempt to note the quantity we consumed, and at least 2 of the ingredients of the meal duplicated items included in our breakfast this morning.
What's the difference how much we had or what it was? We had a good lunch, didn't we?
It was excellent.
Okay, then forget about what we had yesterday or what we're going to eat tomorrow. And you can forget all the rest of that sort of stuff you learned on that island, too.
Do you not consider my Euclidean training of value?
Oh, sure. When there's something scientific to be figured out, I guess you might come in handy. But when it comes to getting along with the rest of the folks around town, you won't do so good if you keep trying to fix everything you see the way they do it on the Magic Isle.
I'm merely trying to help.
Well, all right. But if you keep on telling everybody you meet how they ought to do things, you're going to help yourself to a lot of trouble.
What have I done that is so terrible?
Well, what did you say to that traffic cop?
Cop?
Well, officer then. Well, what did you say to him?
I merely tried to explain to him that his method of procedure was quite wrong.
Yes, that's all you did. Just told the cop how to run a street corner.
Jerry, you must admit there was logic in my contention. If the officer would sound his whistle before a motorist did something wrong, would it not be better than waiting until after the fault was committed?
Oh, sure, swell. But how are you going to know that a man will break a traffic rule until you see him do it?
If the whistle was sounded continuously as a warning to all motorists, there would be no violations of rules.
And how long do you suppose people would stand for a cop standing on a corner blowing a whistle all the time?
The people would not like it.
Of course they wouldn't like it. You can't make a racket like that in the middle of a street and keep it up.
Perhaps I do not fully understand how things must be done here.
Well, you don't. And if you don't want to get in there with everybody you meet, you'd better let things alone.
I'm sorry if you are angry with me, Jerry.
Oh, I'm not angry. I just don't like to see you being such a sap all the time.
A sap? What is a sap?
Oh, it doesn't matter. It's only slang, and you don't like slang.
No, I do not like slang. It is so much easier to express oneself in English.
But slang is English.
Slang is no language. It was originated and has been furthered and added to by people who are too lazy to learn the collection of expressive modifying words which would allow greater expression than the weirdest slang phrases.
All right, I'm lazy.
Agreed.
Well, just the same, I know how to get along in this country. And if you want to do what I do, you'll get along better.
I am willing to do as you tell me, Jerry.
Well, okay. Now, we're going to see a picture show. And while we're in there, you mustn't make a sound. Don't say a word while the show is on.
Is not the picture show merely the projection of images from a celluloid strip of sensitized materials known to you as film?
That's it. And you can hear them talk, too, just like the stage.
Jerry, I do not enjoy correcting your misleading statements, but motion pictures cannot be like the stage. The characters in the picture are not actually alive.
Look, I don't mean to start a war over this. I just told you not to talk in the show.
But, Jerry, what will be the harm if I do speak in the show?
Well, people around you won't like it. They pay their money to listen to the actors. And if you've got any questions to answer, well, wait till the show's over.
Very well.
Hey, what's that extra about?
What is an extra?
Oh, something special in the paper. Big news of some kind.
News of what?
Well, how do I know till I see the paper? Hey, didn't he say something about 2 submarines?
Jerry, those 2 Euclidean submarines.
Yeah, I'm afraid so. Hey, extra! Come over here, will you?
Coming right up, buddy. Read all about it. They're fishing up submarines in our harbor now. There you are.
All right.
What does it say, Jerry?
They found them all right.
May I see the paper?
Oh, sure, take a look.
2 strange submarines believed to be anchored in outer channels.
Yes, sir. That's them. They found them all right.
I am not sure. It says believed to be.
Well, pretty soon that means for sure. We know they're out there, and everybody else will know it soon.
But, Jerry, how could they see those 2 submarines in 6 fathoms of water?
How do you know they were in 6 fathoms of water?
That is how we left them.
Oh, sure. And that was the night before last at midnight.
Of course, it is possible that the submarine which was following us has been released from the magnetic bombs I placed near it.
Well, I'd say it was pretty sure they'd been free before this.
Then that submarine would not be found by anyone.
Why not?
The commander would either return to Euclidia, or if G-47 ordered the vessel to aid Thales in his work locally, they would remain well hidden.
Maybe you're right about that. But how about the submarine we were in?
That would remain perfectly stationary in the position at which we stabilized it.
Well, that's your idea of it. Now, here's mine. This paper says 2 strange submarines were seen in the outer channel. And they don't get out extras about things like that unless they're pretty sure what they're talking about.
But 2 submarines could not have been seen.
But 2 submarines were seen.
Can you explain how that could be possible?
I think I can. Now, listen to this. That submarine that was following us might have had to come up to the surface for a supply of air. And if they had to use all their air getting out of the spot we left them in. That right?
Such a thing is barely possible, though not probable.
Well, anything is probably possible with a problem. Oh, well, anything can happen with those Euclideans are concerned.
Granted.
Then if they had to pick up that outer sub, the one we escaped from, and if they were towing it with their electromagnets, wouldn't they bring their tow to the surface when they came up?
Jerry, you may be right.
Well, sure I'm right.
But why would the Euclideans do such a foolish thing as to come to the surface in the daylight?
Maybe they were having so much trouble with their boat that they didn't have any chance to stay underwater. Anyhow, they've been seen, and we'd better get right over to your mother's house and tell her and the captain.
But we were going to a moving picture show.
Well, golly whiskers, a picture show. Here, we've got the whole country excited over a couple of Euclidean submarines in the Los Angeles harbor, and you want to go to a picture show.
I have seen many Euclidean submarines, and never have I seen one of your moving pictures.
Well, you can see one some other time. We're going to your mother's and tell them all about this.
Will these extras, as you call them, not be available at Mother's house?
Well, not as quickly as we get them here at the corner of Hollywood and Vine. So I'll bet Johnson has heard it over the radio.
I beg your pardon, young man.
Huh? Oh, did you speak to me, sir?
Yes, I'm sorry to bother you, but as you can see, I am blind.
Yeah.
I wonder if you would do something for me.
Well, I haven't got very much, mister, but...
No, not that. I am not begging. That is, not begging for money. All I ask from you is a little information.
Oh, sure. What do you want to know?
I believe I heard a paper boy crying an extra.
Yeah. He's just up the street a little ways.
Perhaps you could call him for this gentleman, Jerry.
Well, I can try whistling.
No, young man. That would do no good. I could not read the paper after you secured it for me.
Oh, that's right.
I thought you might be willing to read me a few lines from your paper. Just the headlines, or tell me something of what the news is.
We can do that easily.
Oh, sure. It says they found 2 strange-looking submarines in the Catalina Island Channel.
2 strange submarines? From what country?
Well, that's what makes them so strange. They're not like any subs owned by any country in the world.
And what further news of them?
That's all. Maybe there'll be more out later.
Quite possibly. Thank you, young man. And you, young lady, perhaps I may help you when we meet again.
Say, there was something funny about that guy.
Yes, Jerry. That man will be very dangerous to us.
Well, how do you know?
He was not blind.
Not blind?
No, I was watching his eyes as I stood where I could see behind those glasses he wore. He was reading every word on the front page of your newspaper while you talked to him. And I have seen those eyes before this.
You what?
I have seen those eyes on the island of Euclidia. That man is Thales.
Thales? The Euclidean scientist who put Johnson's radio out of commission?
Same. Thales is watching us.
Oh, gee whiz. We'd better beat it right home and tell the captain your mother. Oh, why'd I let him walk away?
You could not be expected to know him. You only heard his voice over the radio, and he was carefully disguising it then.
The Super Delicious Cereal presents The Adventures of Superman. Faster than a speeding bullet. More powerful than a locomotive. Able to leap tall buildings at a single bound. Look, up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's Superman. Yes, it's Superman, strange visitor from another planet, who came to Earth with powers and ability far beyond those of mortal men. Superman, defender of law and order, champion of equal rights, valiant, courageous fighter against the forces of hate and prejudice. Today we begin a brand new adventure for the Man of Steel. An adventure that is jam-packed with suspense and mystery. We'll learn more about it in a moment. But right now, I see that Dan McCullough's waiting to talk to you. Go ahead, Dan.
You know, gang, I never saw anything like the way you fellows and girls were going all out for that new second series of comic buttons Kellogg's Pep is putting out. Why, all the kids in our block are planning how they're going to pin these buttons in the new second series on their jacket or dress or cap. And the kids in the schoolyard and over at the playground are plenty busy, too, showing off the buttons they've collected so far and swapping duplicates with each other. And no wonder, because, in the first place, these new Pep comic buttons are doggone slick-looking. Full comic strip colors on a clear white background. Why, the pictures of your funny sheet favorites really stand out. And each one of those pictures is really true to life, straight from the funny papers. There's Maggie and Jiggs and Popeye and Superman, of course. And you'll want to collect all 18 of these new buttons. You can, too. Sure, easy as can be. You don't send in any money, not even a box stop. You just ask Mom to get you some of that super delicious whole wheat flake cereal, Kellogg's Pep, and look for your prize inside the package. There's a comic button, a prize for you, in every package of P.E.P. Pep, the Sunshine Cereal, made by Kellogg's of Battle Creek and Omaha. Now, the adventures of Superman.
At 10 o'clock at night, very much excited, Editor Perry White phoned Clark Kent, telling him to pick up Lois Lane and come to his suburban home at once. He urged Kent to be extremely careful, said it was a matter of life or death, and then hung up. Mystified, Kent drove to Lois's apartment house, where Morrissey, the doorman, said Lois was waiting for him. But the girl reporter failed to answer the switchboard phone, and Kent and Morrissey went up to her apartment. They found the door unlocked and the apartment looking as though a cyclone had struck it. The rug was shoved into a corner. Tables and lamps were overturned. And Lois was missing. Listen.
Someone got in here, overpowered Miss Lane, and took her away, Morrissey.
Oh, Mother of Mercy, who'd want to be doing that?
I don't know. Did anyone else go up to her apartment this evening?
No, sir. I was on the door all evening. You know, we don't let strangers in unless we announce them to the tenant first.
Well, then whoever it was must have come up the fire escape at the rear of the building. Miss Lane was carried out that way, too.
Oh, blessed saints.
Look, you say she called you on the house phone a little while ago?
Not more than 15 or 20 minutes ago it was, Mr. Kent.
Well, didn't any of the other tenants on this floor complain about the noise in this apartment?
No, sir, nobody complained, not a soul.
Strange.
I don't understand it. Miss Lane is such a fine young lady. Who'd want to be harming her now?
I don't know, Morrissey. Maybe Mr. White does. Look, I'll tell you what you do, Morrissey. You question the tenants on both sides of this apartment and across the hall. Find out if they heard anything. I'll phone Mr.
Hadn't we better be calling the police?
No, not yet. Mr. White may be able to give me a lead.
Number, please.
Oh, I want Brentwood 6242.
Brentwood 6242.
Yes, and hurry it, please. It's very urgent. Get going, Marcy.
Okay.
Is that you, Chief?
Yeah. Who's this?
Clark Kent. Listen, Chief, I want to
What's
ask...
the idea waking me up at this hour of the night?
Waking you up? I thought you were waiting. Oh, well, never mind. Look, Chief, something's happened.
What do you mean?
I'm afraid something's happened to Lois.
To Lois?
Yes.
What? Well, what happened? Tell me.
Well, I stopped at her apartment to pick her up as you told me to.
I told you to.
Well, of course, don't you remember?
I told you to pick her up?
On the telephone, not more than half an hour ago.
I was asleep half an hour ago.
All right. Call it 40 minutes.
I was asleep at 9 o'clock. It's almost 10:30 now.
What?
What's this about Lois? What happened to her?
Wait a minute. Are you trying to tell me you didn't phone me this evening and tell me to pick Lois up and get her out to your house as soon as possible?
Of course I didn't. I didn't call anyone. I was in bed at 9 o'clock.
Well, then someone impersonated you.
Impersonated me?
Apparently. Someone who imitated your voice perfectly phoned me, told me to pick up Lois and get out to your house as quickly as possible. I came to Lois's apartment, found it all ripped up as if a terrific battle had taken place, and Lois missing.
What?
Yes. Maybe you better get over here right away, Chief.
Where are you?
At Lois's apartment. Or what's left of it.
Did you call Inspector Henderson?
No, not yet. I thought maybe
Never mind what you thought. Call him at once. I'll be there in half an hour.
Okay. Gosh, I can't understand this.
Mr. Kent.
Oh, yes, Morrissey. Did you find out anything?
No, sir. I spoke to Mr. and Mrs. Seaman on this side and to Dr. Lewis across the hall.
Yes?
They were home all evening, and they said they didn't hear no sound of fighting.
They heard nothing?
No, sir. But the walls and the floors in this building are very thick, you know.
Well, just the same, someone should have heard something.
Did you call the police yet?
I'm calling Inspector Henderson now. Something very strange about all this, Morrissey. Why should anyone impersonate Mr. White in order to get me over?
Puzzled and anxious, Kent calls Inspector Henderson, who hurries to Lois's apartment. Joined by Perry White, the three men search throughout the night for some clue to Lois's mysterious disappearance, but without success. Early the next morning, Jimmy Olsen and Perry White are in the latter's office at the Daily Planet.
Oh, why doesn't Henderson call? What kind of a police department is he running? Take it easy, Chief. I'm sure Henderson's doing all he can.
He's not doing enough. He should have found Lois by now.
Gosh, I hope she's all right. But I'm
Now,
afraid...
don't you start blubbering, Jim.
But Miss Lane's been gone almost 12 hours.
I know, and there's not a single clue as to...
I've got it. Let me.
I've got it. Hello, Mr. White's office.
Is that you, Clark?
Lois, is it you?
Yes.
Did you
Clark.
Lois, please, Chief. Dear, be quiet. I can't hear her. Are you all right, Lois?
Of course I'm all right. Is the chief there?
Well, yes, but what happened to you? Where are you?
I'm at 407 Clover Street.
407 Clover Street?
That's
Write that down,
right.
Olsen.
All right. Yes, now look. Clark, tell the chief I need $10,000 in cash at once.
$10,000? You mean you're being held for ransom?
Held for ransom?
No,
Quick,
I'm not
Olsen.
being
Call
held
Inspector
for
Henderson.
ransom. Okay. Oh, golly. It's a terrific story, and I need $10,000.
Just a minute, Lois. Come back, Jim. She's all right.
She is?
Yes.
But Mr. White just said...
Never mind what I said. What's going on?
Give me that list. Wait a minute, please, will you?
Clark.
Okay, Lois, I'm sorry to interrupt you. We've been terribly worried, though. What happened to you last night?
Nothing happened to me. Now listen for a
But
minute.
your
will you?
apartment, it was all ripped up.
Clark, if you don't stop interrupting me, I will scream.
But I... Oh, all right. What were you saying?
I said, tell the chief that I'm working on the story of the century. It'll make Jimmy's trip to the moon look like 2 cents. But I need $10,000 in cash at once.
What for?
For the story, stupid. Tell the chief and hurry.
Okay, hold on. Lois says she's on a terrific story and needs $10,000 in cash.
$10,000? What for?
For the story, stupid.
What?
I'm quoting Lois. That's what she told me.
Tell her no. No story is worth that much money.
I heard that, Clark. Now tell the chief this story will scoop the world. But if he wants to be a piker, I know the Daily Blade will be glad to pay twice $10,000 for it.
And I heard that. Tell her she can go jump in it. No, don't tell her that. No. I'm not buying any $10,000 pig in the poke. Tell her to stay where she is. I'll be right down with the money, but she'll have to show me before I pay.
Did you hear that, Lois?
Yes, I heard it, but tell him to hurry, Clark. Every minute counts.
Okay, goodbye.
Bye.
407 Clover Street. That right?
Right. Now, wait, Chief. I'll go with you.
No, you stay here, Kent.
But I
If this story is all Lois says it is, I want you to be here to take it over the phone.
Yes, I know,
We'll
but...
make the noon edition.
Well, wait a minute.
10 o'clock, Mr. Kent.
I know.
Mr. White doesn't call pretty soon. We'll miss the noon edition.
Well, Clover Street's a good hour's ride from here, Jim.
He's been gone an hour and a half. Gosh, I wonder what this big story of Miss Lane's is.
Uh-oh. Maybe we'll find out now. Hello, Kent speaking.
Kent, listen to me.
Got the story, Chief?
No, I haven't got it yet. I need another $10,000.
What?
You heard me. Tell Darwin to draw $10,000 from the bank at once, and you rush it down here.
Are you serious?
You bet I'm serious. Get that money and rush it down here. We're at 407 Clover Street, Mrs. Walter's rooming house. You got that?
Yes, I've got it, but Chief,
I
what's in
can't
the
talk
world?
anymore. I'm being watched.
What?
So long.
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, was that Mr. White?
Yes. He says he needs another $10,000.
Sleeping lizards.
I can't figure this out, Jim.
Who are you calling on the intercom?
Darwin, the cashier.
Oh.
Yes, Mr. White?
Oh, this is Clark Kent, Darwin. Mr. White just called. He wants you to draw $10,000 from the bank at once.
Another $10,000?
That's right. Take care of it right away, will you?
But this is most unusual, Mr. Kent. What account is this to be charged to?
Oh, I don't know. Editorial, I guess.
You guess?
You can straighten it out with Mr. White later.
But I can't draw a large sum like that, Mr. Kent, without knowing which account is to be charged to.
Now listen, Darwin. The chief says this is very important.
I'm sorry, Mr. Kent, but you must understand my position.
Well,
I'm answerable to our stockholders and the publishers.
I know.
I can't possibly issue a voucher for $10,000 without knowing which account is to be charged to.
Well, now, wait a minute.
Final.
What will Clark Kent do now? Perry White said every moment is precious. We'll return in a moment for the exciting climax of today's episode. But first, here again is your announcer.
You know, it seems like there are more reasons than you can shake a stick at why you fellas and girls go all out for Kellogg's Pep. First off, there's the doggone good eating in that sunny golden toasted cereal. The spoonful after spoonful of crispy freshness and real wide-awake flavor. Then there's the sound nourishment in Kellogg's Pep. More than twice as much of an energy vitamin B1 as in sun-ripened whole wheat, plus your whole daily minimum need of vitamin D. And that D vitamin is the sunshine vitamin. Helps build strong bones and teeth in growing youngsters like you. And, of course, there are the swell prizes you get. A comic button in every package of Pep. 18 different pictures of your favorite funny paper characters done up in brilliant red and yellow and blue and black. Mighty snappy looking and so easy to get. You don't have to send in any money, not even a box stop. Fact is, you can't buy these comic buttons anywhere. You get them the easy way by asking Mom to keep you supplied with plenty of that super delicious whole wheat flake cereal, Kellogg's Pep. There's a bright-colored comic button in every package. Just ask Mom for P-E-P, Pep, the Sunshine Cereal, made by Kellogg, the greatest name in cereals. Now, back to the adventures of Superman.
Mr. Darwin, the Daily Planet's cashier, has refused to give Clark Kent $10,000 to bring to Perry White. In his office, Kent says to Jimmy Olsen,
We're in a spot, Jim. Darwin won't draw the money without a direct order from Mr. White, and according to the chief, every moment is precious.
Well, Jeepers, what'll we do?
Well, I guess there's only one thing to do. The chief will have to call Darwin. Look, you go into the city room, call information, and get the phone number for Mrs. Walsh's rooming house at 407 Clover Street.
Uh-huh.
I want to keep my line open in case Mr. White calls back.
Mrs. Walsh's rooming house, 407 Clover.
Right, hurry it up, will you, Jim?
As fast as I can.
Good. I better warn Darwin to stand by, I guess.
Now, see here,
Hello?
Mr. Kent, there's no use arguing.
Now, wait a minute.
I've given you my decision, and that's fine.
Keep your shirt on, Darwin. I just wanted to tell you that...
Reporters are all the same. You don't seem to realize that a newspaper is a business organization.
I realize it. I only...
You issue a voucher for $10,000.
Now, look.
$10,000, mind you, and not
Wait a
even
minute.
knowing which account is to
Wait,
be charged.
will you listen a minute? I'm going to have Mr. White phone you right away. This happens to be very important, so please don't leave until he phones.
Oh, I certainly won't. I'm glad you see it my way, Mr. Kent.
Well...
It's these little details which are so important.
Yeah, sure. See you in a few minutes, Darwin.
Oh, all right, Mr. Kent.
Wow. He writes himself a voucher every time he buys a stick of gum. Oh, there you are, Jim.
Gosh, this gets worse and worse by the minute, Mr. Kent.
What does? Did you get the phone number?
Well, that's just the trouble. There is no phone number.
There is no... What are you talking about?
Information says there's no phone for Mrs. Walsh's rooming house at 407 Clover Street.
No phone. Great Scott.
his jaw dropping, Clark Kent stares at Jimmy Olsen in amazement. Only a few minutes ago, Perry White said he was calling from that address, and that he and Lois Lane were in danger. What does this mean? What is the story in which White and Lois are involved? And what is the meaning of the other strange things which are baffling Kent? Well, fellows and girls, there are more and even stranger things to come. So don't miss a single episode of our fascinating new story. Tune in tomorrow and every day, Monday through Friday, same time, same station, and follow The Adventures of Superman.
Faster than a speeding bullet. More powerful than a locomotive. Able to leap tall buildings at a single bound. Look, up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's Superman.
Fellows and girls, be sure to follow The Adventures of Superman. Brought to you every day, Monday through Friday. Same time, same station, by the grand old Kellogg Company of Battle Creek. Superman is also a counter-added feature, appearing in Superman DC publications. Say, gang, you know what fun it is to make your dog sit up and beg for something good to eat? Well, if you want to make sure your dog gets a good dinner that'll help keep him strong and husky, ask your mother to give him Kellogg's Grow Pup dog food. if you feed Grow Pup to your dog along with his scraps of meat and fat, he ought to get along just fine. That kind of eating will help give him strong bones and teeth and muscles. There's Grow Pup Ribbon, Grow Pup Meal, and Grow Pup Pellets. Just see which your dog likes best and ask Mother to feed it to him regularly. Remember, that's Kellogg's Grow Pup. And be sure to be with us tomorrow for the thrilling adventures of Superman. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System. Kellogg's F, the super delicious cereal, presents The Adventures of Superman.
Faster than a speeding bullet. More powerful than a locomotive. Able to leap tall buildings at a single bound. Look, up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's Superman.
Yes, it's Superman, strange visitor from another planet, who came to Earth with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. Superman, defender of law and order, champion of equal rights, valiant, courageous fighter against the forces of hate and prejudice. Today, what Lois Lane calls the story of the century has Clark Kent very much baffled. We'll learn what develops in just a moment. But right now, let's hear from our good friend, Dan McCullough.
You know, gang, one of the swell things about this new second series of comic buttons Kellogg's Pep is putting out is you've got a new set of friends to watch for when Mom opens a new package of Pep. They're all characters you've been following in the funny papers for ages. So, when you get a button with a picture of Lord Plushbottom on it, well, you certainly don't need to be introduced. Same way with Olive Oil or Uncle Willie or Superman or any of the 18 different buttons in this new second series. And is it exciting fun to swap duplicates with your friends and to wear these smart-looking buttons on your jacket or your dress or cap? They're so colorful and bright, they're really on the beam. The background is enameled clear white with the pictures done up in brilliant red and blue and yellow and black, so they really show up. And you know, the best part is, you don't have to send in a single penny to get these keen-looking buttons, not even a box top, and you can't buy them anywhere. They come only as prizes in packages of that super delicious whole wheat flake cereal, Kellogg's Pep. So don't forget to ask Mom to get you a good supply of Pep and look for your prize inside the package. That's P-E-P, Pep, the Sunshine Cereal, made by Kellogg's of Battle Creek. Now, the adventures of Superman.
In response to an urgent telephone call from editor Perry White, a call which White later denied making, Clark Kent hurried to Lois Lane's apartment, only to find it a shambles. Furniture overturned, rugs in a heap, drawers pulled out, and the girl reporter mysteriously missing. Worried and puzzled, Kent contacted Police Inspector Henderson, and then, as Superman, spent a fruitless night searching for Lois. The following morning at the office of the Daily Planet, White, Kent, and Jimmy Olsen were together when a telephone call came in from Lois. She was on the trail of a terrific story, she said, and needed $10,000 immediately. Could Perry White bring it to 407 Clover Street? Leaving Kent at the office, White set out with $10,000 in cash. Less than an hour later, he called in telling Kent to bring $10,000 more to the same address. Kent has asked Jimmy to call information and get the number of the telephone at 407 Clover Street. And as we continue now, Jimmy has just returned with some startling news. Listen.
This is getting worse and worse by the minute, Mr. Kent.
Well, never mind that, Jim. What's the phone number?
Well, that's just the trouble. There is no phone number.
What are you talking about?
Information says there's no phone for Mrs. Walsh at 407 Clover Street.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
Are you sure you got the address right?
Oh, I'm positive. I marked it down on this slip of paper. Look, 407 Clover Street.
Well, she said there's no phone at all at 407 Clover Street.
Something's going on here, Jim. Something I don't like.
I don't like it either. Well, what do you think we ought to do?
Well, it's a cinch Darwin won't give me that money until the chief tells him how to draw it. And since we can't get in touch with 407 Clover Street by phone, I'm going down there.
I'll go with you.
No. You stay right here and stand by in case either Lois or the chief calls on that story. You sit right here in my office and tell Miss Backrack if either of them do call to put it through to you.
Okay, but be careful, Mr. Kent.
Don't worry.
Hurrying through the Daily Planet city room, alive with the clatter of typewriters and teletype machines, Kent steps into the storeroom, closes the door behind him, and in a few brief seconds has made the transformation from the mild-mannered, bespectacled reporter to the red-caped, blue-costumed figure of Superman. Raising the window, he leaps out, swoops high above the building. A minute or so later, once more in the guise of Clark Kent, is ringing the bell of an old, weather-beaten shingle house at 407 Clover Street.
Must be the place. There's a sign in the window, and it looks like a typical rooming house. Oh, someone's coming.
Good morning. Lovely morning, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I'm...
It's spring and all the world is new with life. And all the things that breathe are new with wondrous living. Yes, what is so sweet as a day in spring? Then
I beg your pardon. My name is Clark Kent.
A very lovely name. A very musical name.
Oh, do you think so?
Clark Kent, Clark.
Are you Mrs. Walsh?
You've heard of me. But of course, I can see by your eyes that you're a lover of the drama.
You can?
Did you see me in Macbeth or in The Taming of the Shrew?
Mrs. Walsh, I'm from the Daily Planet. Mr. Perry White told me...
Yes, do come in.
Thank you.
Step right into the living room, Mr. Kent.
Well, thank you.
Mr. White and Miss Lane stepped out for a few moments. They should be back very shortly. Just make yourself comfortable.
Thank you.
Perhaps you'd like to look over this book of my press clippings.
Those
were the grand and glorious days when the name of Lenora Walsh glittered in 1,000 lights. That, Mr. Kent, was the golden era of the theater. Look, a picture of me playing the role of Ophelia in Shakespeare's immortal Hamlet.
Where?
It was at the Civic Opera House in Paducah, and I was sensational, simply sensational.
Very interesting, very interesting. How long did Mr. White and Miss Lane say they'd be?
And here, now look here. They'll be back shortly.
Well, they better be, or I'm going to start raising the roof.
Tut, Mr. Kent. In the words of the immortal bard, the quality of mercy is not strained. It droppeth as a gentle rain.
What's that?
Heavens alive, Mr. Kent, don't jump so. It's just the telephone.
But you're not supposed to have a telephone.
How would I operate a theatrical rooming house without a telephone?
Well,
I keep it in that little closet.
But when I...
Excuse me while I answer it.
I don't get this. I don't get it at all.
Hello?
Mrs. Walsh?
Yes.
This is Perry White. Is Mr. Kent there?
White? Yes, Mr. White.
Put him on, will you, please?
Certainly. It's for you, Mr. Kent. Mr. White.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Hello, Chief.
Have you got the money, Kent?
Why, no. You see, I...
Great snakes and little fishes. I told you I wanted $10,000.
I know, Chief, but Darwin wouldn't give it to me.
Why not?
No, he said he didn't know which account to draw it on.
Oh, all the stupid, addle-pated, hair-brained nincompoops I ever met. He takes the cake.
Yes, I know.
Now, listen to me, Kent. I'll call Darwin immediately.
Good.
You get back to the office and pick up the money.
What?
You can have it ready by the time you get there.
Well, what'll I do with it?
What do you think? Bring it back to Mrs. Walsh's house.
Chief, what's this all about?
I can't tell you now, but it's the biggest story in the century.
Well, can't you even give me
No, I've got to go. Get back to the office, Kent. Hurry.
Wait a minute. Hello. Oh, he hung up.
My, Mr. White sounded excited, didn't he?
Yes, he did. I'll have to leave now.
I'm terribly sorry.
No, don't you bother about the door. I'll find my way out.
Goodbye, Mr. Kent.
Goodbye. Story of the century, but he can't tell me about it. Oh, well, no sense beating my brains out. Back into that alley to switch to Superman. No sense wasting time getting to the office. Now, the coast looks clear. Off with these clothes. Story of the century, eh? What could it be? I certainly don't know. Well, all set. Up, and away! Hi, Clark. Hi, Joe.
Hey, wait, I wanted to ask you about...
Not now, Joe. Jimmy's waiting for me in my office. Hi, Jim.
Hi, Mr. Kent.
Well?
Mr. White called Mr. Darwin and told him to go down to the bank and get the $10,000.
Yes, I know that.
Well, did you see Mr. White or Miss Lane?
No, I saw Mrs. Walsh and listened to her spout Shakespeare for 10 minutes.
What is she, an actress?
She was an actress about 100 years ago.
Oh, boy, that must have been something.
Huh.
Well, how come all this stuff is going on at her place?
Gosh, you've got me, Jim. I can't make head or tail out of it. White says it's the story of the century. Lois says it's the story of the century. And here I am, like on a merry-go-round.
Boy, it sure is a mystery.
Yeah. I've never seen the mystery yet that can't be solved. Well, I'll take it, Jim. Hello, Clark Kent speaking.
Clark, this is Lois.
Lois?
Is it all Lois Lane?
Yes. Lois, where are you?
I can't tell you, but did that money go down to 407 Clover Street?
Now, look, Lois, I'm getting sick and tired of being...
I haven't much time, and they're watching me like hawks.
Who's watching you?
Just answer my question. Did the money go down to Clover Street, the second 10,000?
Not yet.
Well, for heaven's sake, Clark, please see that it does.
Lois, can't you tell me what this...
I can't tell you anything. I've got to go now.
No, wait a minute.
Goodbye.
Hello, Lois. Lois!
What happened?
Oh, she hung up.
What did she say? Did she say what it was all about?
Not a word. She did say someone was watching her like a hawk. Oh, who's that now? Come in. What?
Greetings, gentlemen.
Cleves! Lois! Great Scott, Lois Lane!
Stunned, Clark Kent and Jimmy Olsen stare in open-mouthed amazement as Lois Lane, smiling and seemingly oblivious to all the mystery surrounding her, enters Kent's office. What is the answer? We'll know more in just a moment. But first, here again is your announcer.
You know, gang, to you young fellows, 40 years must seem like a lifetime. But when it's a lifetime of doing good, well, that's something to be mighty proud of. That's why the Boys Clubs of America have something they can really boast about this week, because it's their 40th anniversary. Yes, sir, for that long, this grand organization has been building boys into better men, helping young fellows to learn good sportsmanship, to build up their bodies through planned recreation, to learn new skills and trades. In the war, the Boys Clubs sold war bonds, collected much-needed waste paper and metal, planted gardens and helped farmers. And now they're carrying on by learning the ideals of fair play, tolerance and honesty, and the satisfaction of real, useful service. Here's congratulations to the Boys Clubs of America on its 40th birthday. Just keep up the good work. Now, back to Superman.
Less than 60 seconds after Clark Kent in his office with Jimmy Olsen received an urgent telephone call from Lois Lane, the door of the office opened, and in stepped the girl reporter, big as life. As we continue now, she has closed the door behind her and faces Kent and Jimmy, who are staring at her in open-mouthed amazement.
What on earth is the matter with you two? Do I look like a ghost?
Cleves, a ghost.
Stop looking at me like that. Clark, snap out of it.
Lois, is it really you?
Who do you think it is? What is the matter with you?
I just talked to you on the telephone. I just hung up.
You just talked to me on the telephone?
Yes, just a minute ago. You asked me about the second $10,000.
What second $10,000?
Blizzard.
Oh, no, wait a minute. Let's start from the beginning.
Well, we certainly better start from someplace because I'm getting a little confused.
You're getting confused. You're getting confused.
Well, you don't have to leer at me.
All right, wait a minute. What about your apartment? Who smashed it up? Who overturned the furniture? Who pulled out the drawers?
I don't know what you're talking about.
All right. Where were you last night?
I was with my sister, Diana. She's sick.
You were not?
I was, too.
I called your sister. There was no answer.
I'm sorry, Clark, but I spent the entire night with Diana, and neither one of us buzzed.
I tell you what. Okay, let that go. Now, about the $10,000, the second $10,000. Didn't I just talk to you on the phone, and didn't you tell me to get the money down to 407 Clover Street, Mrs. Walsh's rooming house, immediately?
Clark, are you crazy?
I don't know, Lois. Am I?
Well, it certainly looks like someone is crazy. What can possibly be behind this strange and puzzling mystery? Gang, it gets stranger and more puzzling as it goes along. So don't miss a single solitary word of it. In another day or two, you'll be on a merry-go-round, just as Clark Kent is. So keep listening. Tune in tomorrow, same time, same station, for the adventures of Superman.
Faster than a speeding bullet. More powerful than a locomotive. Able to leap tall buildings at a single bound. Look, up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's Superman.
Boys and girls, be sure to follow the adventures of Superman. Brought to you every day, Monday through Friday, same time, same station, by the grand old Kellogg Company of Battle Creek. And for other thrilling adventures of Superman, see your local newspaper. Superman is also a copyrighted feature appearing in Superman DC publications. Say, lots of you kids have dogs, and I'll bet one of the things they enjoy most is a tug of war. Yes, dogs seem to get such a kick out of using their strong teeth and muscles. Now, if you want to help keep your dog strong and husky, feed him Grow Pup dog food. It's just wonderful for dogs and has a good meaty flavor most dogs like. There are 3 different kinds. There's Grow Pup Ribbon, Grow Pup Meal, and Grow Pup Pellets. Ask your mother to get Kellogg's Grow Pup today and see if your dog doesn't gobble it right up. And be sure to be with us tomorrow for the thrilling adventures of Superman. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
You, finding life rather dull, dreaming again of exotic places, wishing you were somewhere else? We offer you escape.
Escape with us now to the Yellow Sea and the story of a man who fought the entire Japanese Navy with an ancient submarine and an untrained crew, as Alec Hudson tells it in his exciting story, Up Periscope.
It happened in 1938. Pearl Harbor was just another naval base somewhere in the Pacific, and China, still further away, was swarming with Japanese invaders. And in 1938, a United States submarine, the S-52, docked at Pearl Harbor, and I walked down her gangplank. No longer commanding officer, merely Lieutenant Thomas J. Baker, USN, retired. I said a fond farewell to the bosun's mate, tucked my commissioning pennant under one arm, moved into the Moana Hotel in Waikiki, just outside Honolulu. And an hour later, I was at the Moana Bar, sipping an exotic Hawaiian drink known as bourbon and water, and toasting my lost career in silence. That was until a strange little man behind horn-rimmed glasses tapped my elbow.
Excuse me, please. Let me buy this drink for you, Lieutenant Baker.
Beg your pardon?
Oh, you do not know me, of course. But I have spent some hours searching for you, Lieutenant.
I didn't get the name.
It is Lee, Sung Lee. You are, of course, the former commanding officer of the submarine S-52.
Yeah.
You docked at Pearl Harbor on Tuesday, and today, at precisely 12 o'clock noon, you were relieved of your command by your executive officer.
Hey, now, wait a minute.
You received what your Navy refers to as a medical discharge. It was found that you are deaf in your left ear. Is that not correct, Lieutenant Baker?
Yeah.
You see, my facts are accurate.
Yeah.
I am an unofficial representative of the Chinese government. I have come to you with a business proposition.
A business proposition?
You are available, are you not?
Well, yeah, I think you could say that.
It is a pity that a young man such as yourself should have his chosen career destroyed by such a trivial matter as the hearing of a watch ticking.
You must have been there for the examination.
I am well aware of these matters. All too often your Navy acts somewhat hastily, without due consideration for all of the facts.
What's your proposition, Mr. Lee?
You are direct. That is good. Lieutenant Baker, I have come to offer you command of a Chinese submarine for action against the Japanese invaders.
I beg your pardon?
It is true. The Chinese government desires that you take charge of a submarine for operations at the mouth of the Yangtze River.
The Yangtze?
You are familiar with this area, of course. Then perhaps you would consider the following terms. We will pay you $1,000 each month, plus your expenses. In addition to this amount, you will receive a bonus.
Go on, Mr. Lee.
A bonus of $50,000 for each major Japanese ship you might sink.
$50,000.
That is correct. Your answer, Lieutenant Baker?
Maybe you better give me a little time, Mr. Lee.
Time is of the essence. That is an American expression, is it not?
Make it 1 week. A week from today.
Very well. 1 week from today, and we will have your answer. Need I remind you, Lieutenant, that in this matter the utmost secrecy must be maintained.
Yeah, I'm aware of that, Mr. Lee.
Good. Thank you, Lieutenant. China will not forget you.
The market for slightly used submarine officers was at low ebb in 1938. So a week later, I met with Mr. Lee and 3 elderly Chinese. I made a counter-proposal that I be allowed to hire 3 key men of my own choice as assistants. Mr. Lee and friends agreed. And I found myself promoted. Lieutenant Commander Thomas J. Baker, Chinese Navy. I wired 3 ex-shipmates. 2 answered. Chuck Young, an engineer who'd been paid off after 16 years of service.
and Jimmy Mann, my old chief torpedoman from the boats in Panama. A week later, Young and Mann arrived. And 2 days after that, Young, Mann, and myself took the Clipper for Hong Kong. Our destination, Amoy. On the decks of Amoy, we were met by a bright-looking young man in a light blue gown and a black silk Chinese cap. He introduced himself.
You are Captain Baker, is it not correct? I am Wong, your first officer.
Now, how do you do, Wong? This is our engineer, Chief Young.
Yeah, howdy.
And our chief torpedoman, Jimmy Mann.
Glad to meet you, Mr. Wong. With deepest gratitude and humility, gentlemen.
Thanks. Yeah, sure thing.
If you gentlemen will follow me now, I will show you your quarters. This way, please.
Hey, Skip. What does he mean, show us to our quarters? I don't even see a boat.
You see a Chinese junk port side up ahead?
Sure, but who signed up for a junk? I thought we was back in a pig boat, maybe.
Open your eyes, man. It's a decoy. Subs under that straw and bamboo.
What is this, a game?
They're fighting a war over here, man. That means Jap bomber patrols.
Oh, I get it.
Congratulations.
It's stoic. Here comes one.
Will you step aboard now, please?
All right.
Okay.
This is Lieutenant Lou, Captain. He is your second officer.
How do you do, Lieutenant?
Indeed a pleasure to welcome you aboard, Captain.
What a nut joint, it's an S-boat.
It is indeed ancient, gentlemen, but we have kept it in good repair. Would you care to inspect our humble ship?
Yes, I would. Thanks, Lon.
Lieutenant Lou and myself will see that your quarters are in order, gentlemen.
1918 class. 12 knots surfaced, 8 submerged.
That means 2 main diesels, 500 oars each. I put 10 years in on one of these fish.
And 4 torpedo tubes forward. That ain't much bite, Skipper.
No, it's the best we've got. All right, you two, now you've seen her. One S-boat to fight the Jap Navy. Here's where you sign on or off. Young?
I'm on, Skipper.
Man?
We got a crew of Chinese farmers that can't speak a word of English. We got an S-boat somebody dredged up from under the main. We got officers wearing blue kimonos.
Man, on or off?
Okay, Skipper, I'm on.
Man was right about the crew. Outside of Lou and Wong, not a man among them could understand even pidgin English. One thing about our Chinese S-boat was universal, the smell. The smell of fuel oil and acid and humans at work. And we worked around the clock. I was given 30 days to mold 800 tons of iron into a ship and a mass of Chinese peasants into a fighting force. Young complained constantly, the way a chief petty officer or a sergeant complains. So I knew he was making out all right. But Jimmy Mann came up with a unique problem.
Okay, Skipper, so now we got torpedo fuel. Best darn torpedo fuel I ever tasted.
Since when did you switch to grain alcohol?
You know we ain't got no grain alcohol. It's just that I found it's a substitute.
All right, tell me about it.
Well, it seems there was some gin on the docks one day. Several cases. By rigging up my own little still, I was able, with tears in my eyes, to change the gin into torpedo fuel.
I'll see if the Chinese government hasn't got a spare Navy cross.
Just call me Kentucky Jim Man. We're serving old torpedo in the galley.
I made an itemized list out on the Chinese S-boat. It showed no deck guns, sound gear worse than useless, no fire control system for firing the torpedoes, and no flood control. Then one day toward the end of the month, Chuck Young brought up the real problem.
I tell you, Skipper, it can't be done. These old batteries are next to worthless.
Well, you can't expect much of batteries that have been lying around a back channel for years.
Expect much? But, Skipper, batteries are the life of a sub. If we got no batteries, we got no boat.
I'm painfully aware of that, Chuck.
You know what happens to old batteries? They seep hydrogen. One of these days, we're going to be submerged, and the hydrogen is going to start leaking out, and wham! They blow up like a Chinese firecracker.
Then we'll have to be cautious.
Cautious? With hydrogen? You can't see the stuff. You can't hear it. You can't smell it. Something makes a spark, the whole boat goes sky high.
All right, Chuck, have you got any suggestions?
Well, outside of forgetting the whole thing.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Get your engine room in order, Chief. We're sailing for the Yangtze tomorrow.
return to Escape and today's story, Up Periscope, in just a moment. Did you know that for only $10 you can supplement the food rations of a family of 4 for a whole month? Just send that $10 to CARE, spelled C-A-R-E, New York. CARE guarantees delivery of its packages to 11 different countries in Europe, as well as to India, Israel, and Japan. Don't forget to include your name and address and the name and address of the family you want to receive the CARE package, because CARE is a person-to-person, international goodwill service. And now, back to Escape.
We sailed north through the Formosa Strait, traveling submerged, surfacing only after sunset. It took us 10 days to get to the latitude of the Saddle Islands. And in those 10 days, my Chinese crew behaved like veterans. Just north of the Saddles, we took up station across the most probable route of the convoys coming down from Japan. One afternoon, we were in the middle of one of those Saddle Island fogs, with a 5-knot wind that blew the stuff in patches. At about 5 o'clock, a patch of clear weather blew in, and we went down. My first officer, Lieutenant Wong, was standing next to me. When I brought it to Periscope depth and took a look around, my heart nearly jumped out of my mouth.
Yes. I did something, Captain.
1, 2, 3, 4. What? Good Lord.
It is Japanese convoy, Captain.
More than a convoy, Wong. An entire division. Heavy stuff. Battleships, cruisers, destroyers. Here, have a look.
Yes, Captain. It is as you say. 4,000 or 5,000 yards.
They're lying stern to. An anchor waiting for the floor to lift. Wong, stand by to submerge.
But, Captain, an entire Japanese fleet.
Well, what do you think we're here for? Down Periscope. Signal General Headquarters. We're going down to attack. Wong took the helm and Lou was the diving officer, chanting his orders in sing-song Cantonese to the bow and stern planesmen. And in 2 minutes, our S-boat was ready to attack.
Torpedo stones loaded and ready, Skipper.
Steady on course 210, Captain.
We'll run parallel at 1,500 yards. Hard right rudder.
Hard right rudder, sir.
Up Periscope. Up Periscope, sir. Steady on course 090.
090, sir.
Once he's in hull.
We'll take the battle wagon first, Warren. That's Matsui class. Come left, 5 degrees.
Come left, 5 degrees, sir.
There she is, Warren. Lying there, inviting a tin fish.
Steady on course 0, right 5, sir.
Start timing.
10 seconds. 9 seconds. 8 seconds. 7 seconds. 6 seconds. 5 seconds.
Stand by to fire 1.
3 seconds. 2 seconds. 1 second. Time up.
Fire 1. Hold it down, Lou. Don't go, sir. Fire 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. Fire 3. Steady 1. Steady. Fire 4. Down Periscope. Left full rudder, full speed ahead. Take it down to 100 feet. Subject course 340.
340, sir.
Down to 100 feet, Captain.
Captain, did we...
Wait a minute.
Skipper, it's ahead. So, 3. 4.
Well, just don't stand there, man. Reload. We're going back for more.
Skipper, the tubes are practically ready.
Stand by to bring her up, Lou.
Aye, aye, Captain. But, it's Captain Surely.
Battleships can take it, Juan. We want to be sure. They're dropping depth charges. They'll be spraying them like hand grenades. Right full rudder.
Right full rudder, sir. We're ready to fire again, Skipper.
Good. Stand by. Course 250.
250, sir.
Take her up, Lou.
Aye, aye, sir.
I had time for one quick periscope exposure, and it told me everything I could want to know. The Jap battleship lay on her side, her rail under. She was sinking. On the horizon, a group of destroyers were depth charging the daylight out of some innocent fish. The fog was drifting in. It would be dark in half an hour. Now, there was no use wasting another torpedo on the battleship, and the destroyers were too tough to hit. I had 6 torpedoes left, and I wanted to save them for the big boys. I let Wong have a look through the periscope.
Oh, the battleship. We sunk battleship. Wait until we report this to our leader.
Yeah, we aren't finished yet.
Hey, Captain, look, quickly. Another big ship, close to us.
Let me have it. That's cruiser. 10,000 tons at least. All right, sailors, there's our next target. Let's full rudder.
Full rudder, sir.
Stand by to fire one. Yeah, we'll have to gamble this one, Warren. Yeah, I guess it's speed at 30 knots. Course 260. We'll take a 90-degree track. Down periscope. Full speed ahead.
1 speed ahead.
On. Start timing.
10 seconds. 9 seconds. 8 seconds. 7 seconds. 6 seconds.
Just at that instant, the Jap destroyer passed over us going like a shark after Barracuda. But it was too late to stop now. And I gave the word to fire 1, then 2, then 3, then 4. And we headed down, fast. I gotta take a look, Juan. Lou, take her up to periscope deck.
Periscope deck. Aye, aye, Captain.
Skipper, I gotta talk to you.
Come on, just a minute.
Periscope deck, Captain.
Up periscope.
Up the periscope.
Cruiser's down by the stern, Jenny. We got her.
Captain, listen to me.
The fog's coming in again.
Captain, cell number 72 has reversed itself. The storage batteries are going out.
Well, rip up the battery decks and get those jumpers across. I'll hold the speed down as low as possible.
Right, Skipper.
Take her down to 100 feet.
Captain, to periscope. Destroyer carrying down on us full speed.
Let me look. Forget the batteries. Full speed. Take her down, Lou. Take her down. Flash dive. Flash dive. We moved down in a hurry. Whatever Lou was saying in Cantonese did the trick. Luck was with us. But we'd had a lifetime of luck in the past 20 minutes. It couldn't last forever. And it didn't. A sheet of blue flame shot through the boat. It followed the whole place and flashed wherever moisture had collected. It made a blue halo around the sweaty faces of the men. It didn't seem hot. No one was burned. But the Chinese crew screamed in terror. Hydrogen. Hydrogen given off by the storage batteries. Something had touched it off before enough could build up to make a human bomb out of all of us. Now we had to surface, but we couldn't. Destruction was up there in the form of a Jap destroyer. Destruction down here. Hydrogen. Suddenly I glanced at the depth gauge. We were coming up. The bombing planes, paralyzed with fear, had closed the controls on hard rise. Get her down, Lou! Get her down!
I am trying, Captain. He doesn't understand.
Breaking surface, Captain.
I cannot free the man from the controls, Captain.
Captain, through periscope. Destroyer bearing down.
The impact drew all of us to the deck. I got back up in time to see water gushing down through the conning tower hatch. A direct hit. A superstructure destroyed. Close all watertight doors. Secure the hatches.
Captain, the lights. The lights are gone out.
Main circuit breaker's knocked out.
Switch out the emergency lights. Young, can you work on the circuit breakers?
Aye, aye, sir.
We're getting water in the torpedo room. Never mind that, man. Help Young with the circuit breakers.
Aye, aye, sir.
The crew, Captain. They're very frightened.
Light down.
Low. What's our depth?
150 feet, Captain. We are sinking rapidly.
Hard rise on the bow and stern planes.
The jerky brake is okay, Skipper, but the pump can't handle this water.
Well, take charge of the air manifold, Jimmy. Blow out a little of number 2 main ballast.
Aye, aye, Captain.
200 feet, Captain. We are going down too fast, Captain. 225 feet, Captain. No, Captain. Wait. No, we are rising at 200 feet. Captain, I do not understand. 175 feet. We are rising rapidly.
Man, let a little air out of the ballast tank.
Captain, what is happening? First we are too deep, then we move up too swiftly.
It's the water inside the boat. It rushes forward, and we dive, and back aft, and we go up.
Still coming up, Captain. 100 feet.
It's no use, Skipper. The pumps can't handle our weight fast enough.
You sure the Kingston valves are open in the main ballast tank?
Yes, sir.
50 feet, Captain. Nearing surface.
Well, we'll have to take our chances on the surface, man. Blow all main ballast.
Blow all main ballast, Captain.
Captain.
What is it, Ward?
The crew, they don't understand what is happening. Water is filling ship.
Well, we'll be surface in 2 minutes.
But they have taken the knives from the ship's galley. They are crazed with fear.
Hold them off, I tell you. We're nearing surface.
Periscope depth, Captain.
Oh, never mind that. We'll take her up to the surface.
We're okay, Skipper. We're coming up.
Captain, listen to me. These poor farmers know nothing of submarines. They must be stopped.
Skipper, they're close to the hatch.
Power, stop them. We're not surface yet.
Nearing surface, Captain.
Captain, the water's pouring in on the battery, so it's crazy close to open the hatches.
Surface, Captain.
Skipper, the batteries, the salt water's pouring under the battery.
What is this green gas?
On past the word for all hands to abandon ship.
What do you know?
Skipper, if that chlorine gets to us, we're finished. Let's get out of here.
Okay, where's Young?
I don't know. He was in the Chinese mob a few minutes ago. Skipper, the chlorine spread.
Yeah. Let's get Young. Follow me.
Skipper, I don't... Skipper, look.
Young.
A meat cleaver buried his skull. He's dead, Skipper.
So he better stop that mob. He got that for his efforts.
Let's get out of here, Skipper.
Yeah, you're right, Jimmy. We can't help Young. This way. You okay, Jimmy?
Sure thing, Skipper.
Those poor devils forgot to take their life jackets.
We can't help them, Skipper. They brought it on themselves.
Hudson, you all right?
Yeah, all right, Warren. Where's Lou?
I don't know. We can still save the ship, can't we, Skipper? It's the gas that drove us out.
3 men can drove a sub. Warren, the F-boat belongs to your country. We leave her this way, she might drift into the hands of the Japs.
My country needs a submarine. We have so few weapons.
Well, it's you and Man and me. Do you think we can save her?
No. You've done your best, Captain. It's for you to decide.
All right. Man, take the forward hatches. Wong, you take aft. We're going to scuttle her. We scuttled the S-boat. Wong, Man, and myself. Then we drifted apart in the black, muddy Yangtze River. I looked back just once to see my boat go down steadily by the stern. She was a pig iron wench of uncertain antecedents, but she'd been all mine, and she met her end like a lady. The last thing I remembered was the black water and the night. When I regained consciousness, I was aboard a Chinese fishing junk. And with the fish, I was delivered the following day to Ningpo.
Enough. Gentlemen, you must contain your emotions. This man, this American, must be tried fairly.
As fairly as he has sunk our submarine. Do not forget that, worthy one.
You have heard his story. It is now up to us to believe it.
But you haven't heard my story. You kept me locked up in your filthy jail for 2 days. You haven't let me wire my government. You haven't let me...
Please, Lieutenant. You are making this most unpleasant. Indeed, we have listened to your strange tale. You yourself have admitted ordering our noble submarine to be sunk.
Yeah, but what about the rest of it? The Jap battleship we sunk and the cruiser?
Surely, Lieutenant, you are not still portraying yourself in this ridiculous, heroic fantasy.
But I tell you, we sunk them, a battleship and a cruiser. Then we were forced to abandon ship. Oh, no. Ask the Japanese. They'll tell you we got two of their major ships before they got us.
Surely, Lieutenant, you are not so naive as to believe that our enemy, the Japanese, would admit to this, even if it were true. Tell your distinguished superiors, these gentlemen gathered here, just who saw these imagined sinking.
I did. And so did Wong, my first officer, Lieutenant Wong. He saw them, both of them.
Ah, so there was someone else. And pray, tell us then, where is Lieutenant Wong?
I don't know. He drifted away from me during the night.
He drifted away from you during the night. I believe we may now weigh the evidence. The crime is treason against the government of China. Gentlemen, how do you find this man? You see, Lieutenant, you deserve the maximum penalty. Death tomorrow morning before the firing squad. However, we are all too aware of your American citizenship. Therefore, we shall suspend this sentence under one condition. That you leave at once and never return to China again. Is so?
So I left China. My $1,000 a month salary, my bonus now worth $100,000. The unofficial Mr. Lee. I saw none of it or him. In the end, I was glad to be alive and to have discovered that I had my belly full of submarines. For life.
Under the direction of Norman MacDonald, Escape has brought you Up Periscope by Alec Hudson, especially adapted for radio by William Froug, and starring Hi Everback.
You, finding life rather dull, dreaming again of exotic places, wishing you were somewhere else, we offer you Escape. Escape with us now to England and the story of an innocent man caught up in a murderous web of international intrigue, as Geoffrey Household tells it in his exciting new novel, A Rough Shoot.
It happened on an autumn evening, so silent and peaceful that no one could have a thought of human violence. And now I was walking home from Mr. Blossom's farm in Dorset, on which I had rented the hunting rights, the rough shooting for the season. As I approached our house, where my wife and children were waiting supper, I took a last anxious look back over my shoulder, across the meadow dotted with clumps of thorn, gorse, and bramble, stretching away until it vanished in a mist of gray and weed. And then I hurried on into the house, glad for its cozy warmth and feeling of security.
Oh, what kept you so long, Roger?
I'm sorry, Cecily. Where are the boys?
They had their supper. I've sent them to bed. You must be starved.
I'm afraid I'm not hungry. What I need is a pot of whiskey.
Roger, what's the matter?
I don't quite know how to tell you, my dear.
Tell me what? What is it?
Well, out there on the chute. Just a little while ago.
Roger, what happened?
Oh, Cecily, I can hardly believe it myself now.
Tell me what happened.
All right. I killed a man.
What?
It's true, Cecily. I killed a man and then I threw his body in the sump.
Roger.
It's true, Cecily.
But you couldn't have. I don't believe it.
Well, listen to me, Cecily. You see, I was walking back from Mr. Blossom's farm and I saw 3 men bending over something by a hedge. I thought they might be poachers. So I started toward them when a cock pheasant suddenly flew up in front of them and then one of the men shot it with an air pistol.
Yes.
Well, it made me angry and I lost my head. If they were poachers, I wanted to teach them a lesson to frighten them. So I let one of them have a charge of birdshot in the seat of the pants and... Well, he fell forward onto the ground and he lay there kicking for a moment and then he was still. I ran up to him, I turned him over and I found that he'd fallen onto a sharp spike that he'd been working with.
Oh, Roger, how terrible.
It was driven into his head. It killed him.
Oh, then you didn't... It was an accident.
Yes, I know it was, but no one will believe it now.
But why, Roger?
Because I've hidden his body under 10 feet of water. In the sump.
Why did you do that?
I don't know why, Cecily. I don't know why I did it. I just lost my head, that's all.
Oh. Roger, you said there were 3 men there.
Yes.
What became of the others?
Well, that's the strangest thing of all, Cecily. When he fell, they turned and ran.
But why?
I don't know why.
Have you told the police?
I can't tell the police.
Mr. Blossom will go to them. It happened on his farm. He'll go.
No, Blossom doesn't know about it.
But surely he'll find out.
No one will find out. That is, not until the body is discovered.
What about his friends, the men who saw it?
Well, Cecily, if those 2 men were going to the police, they'd have stayed to identify me. But they ran away instead. Don't you see? For some reason, they didn't want me to identify them.
Well, they were poachers.
Oh, no, they weren't poachers. I'm sure of that.
Oh, then what were they doing there?
I don't know, my dear, but for my own protection, I'd better find out.
How?
Well, the only thing I can do is to go back there and see what I can discover.
Oh, won't that be rather dangerous?
Well, it would be more dangerous not to find out.
Yes. Yes, perhaps it would. Oh, but do be careful, Roger.
Yes, of course, my dear. Of course I shall. I went to a garage in town. I rented a bicycle and I pedaled out to the back acres of Mr. Blossom's farm. Out to where only a couple of hours ago I had killed a man. It was a gusty night. The trees along the road were enveloped in mist and creaked and whispered in the wind. I came to the great hedgerow of thorn and holly. The rattle of whose branches and dying leaves made enough noise to cover the sound of my approach. And there I stopped and looked about into the milky and uneasy world that surrounded me. And suddenly, parked on the road ahead, I saw a motorcycle and sidecar. I left my bicycle. I crept down the road past the motorcycle, staying close to the hedgerow.
I told you we shouldn't have taken that chance. In this business, you've got to take chances. I don't like it. Besides, it's bound to come there. Shut up and get to it. I had enough of your complaining. Oh, but I... What is that? I don't hear anything. There's something here in his head. Give it a flashlight. Turn off that picture. Here he is. All right, come up, man. Oh, there's someone.
down the road. Still gripping the shovel, I'd snatched from the man who had attacked me. And when I reached the motorcycle, I stopped just long enough to flash the exposed, delicate wiring of its engine with a shovel and then ran on. A few minutes later, I was pedaling furiously home. Next morning, after seeing Cecily and the boys off to church in the village, I decided to go straight to Mr. Blossom's farm, avoiding for the present an investigation of the scene at the hedgerow. I thought it best to see if I could discover anything from Blossom before exposing myself further. As I approached the farmhouse, I noticed a big shiny limousine parked out by the barn and Mr. Blossom in the yard talking to his landlord, Robert Hayne Hassingham. I would have preferred avoiding Hassingham on that particular morning, but they'd already seen me, and so I walked on and into the yard.
I've seen everyone about these premises who's new around here, and I've just...
Of course, Mr. Blossom. I was just wondering. Government, very strict about poachers.
Good morning, Colonel Payne.
Good morning, Hassan. Mr. Brown.
Good morning, sir.
I've just been protecting your hunting rights.
What do you mean, protecting them?
Some poachers about.
How do you know that?
One of the man who saw them, he came to me.
Well, now, he shouldn't be bothering you with that. I don't understand why a man who saw someone poaching on my hunting preserve wouldn't come to me.
Perhaps he tried. Perhaps he couldn't find you.
Who was he?
Well, I haven't any idea. I never saw him before in my life, Colonel Tane.
Mr. Tane, if you don't mind. Or just Tane. I'm not fussy, but not Colonel. I'm only a military man in case of war.
Your military heritage is something you can't ever cast aside, Tane.
If you're trying to recruit me for your People's Union organization, you might just as well forget it.
Many of your fellow officers are in it, Tane.
I doubt if there are very many.
All right. A few. But we don't want everyone.
I don't like your outfit, Hassingham. It's too exclusive for my taste.
Discriminating is the word.
Fanatical is a better one. Then perhaps fascistic is the best of all.
We are not a political organization.
Well, I still don't like it.
You'll come around, Tane. You'll have to come around.
I'll have to? You're not talking to one of your hirelings, Hassingham.
We must get back to town before 10.
Mr. Jim, in a moment, Hire. Of course, Tane, we shouldn't argue. Men like ourselves, whose basic interests are so close.
Are they?
Colonel Tane, this is Mr. Hyatt.
Mr. Hyatt?
Why, yes. Nothing unusual about that.
Oh, it was the Mr. I wondered about.
How so?
Are you an executive in the People's Union?
Yes. Why?
I thought all executives were officers in your organization.
Yeah, but I am a kind of officer, Mr. Tane.
What kind?
Security.
Intelligence work?
In a way.
A sort of super policeman?
Sort of.
You see, Tane, we have men of varied abilities in our organization.
We'll be late for the meeting.
Yes, of course. You're right.
Oh, by the way, Mr. Tane, do you ever go shooting in the early evening?
What? No, of course not.
That's odd.
Why? Why should it be odd that I don't shoot in the early evening?
Last evening someone was shooting on your game preserve.
Well, what of it? It happens all the time. What are you trying to imply, Hyatt?
Why, nothing, sir, but it seems curious that a man who loves to shoot wouldn't be interested in who poached on his own grounds. Good day, sir.
As I walked back across Blossom's farm, across the great expanses of close rabbit turf dotted with dense thickets of bramble, it seemed more and more clear that Hassingham's and Hyatt's questioning of me about the previous night's shooting meant only one thing. They were somehow involved with the man I had killed. And then it suddenly occurred to me that theirs was not a personal interest, but that the People's Union was mixed up in all this. I wished more than ever that I had gone to the police immediately. Ahead of me, a hare suddenly dashed out of the thicket and scampered away across the water.
Stay where you are.
What?
You are a foolish man, Mr. Tane.
What do you want?
You are an amateur. I've been intrigued, Mr. Tane. You are no competition for Hassingham.
Are you a friend of Hassingham?
He would like me to be. Or rather, once he would have liked me to be.
Hyatt?
Hyatt needs no one. He is evil unto himself.
You're German.
I was German.
And you mean you're a Nazi?
The loyal Englishman who never forgets a war.
Perhaps.
I can. You're a bungler. Your English bungling delayed my plans. How stupid to shoot at Von Cleek.
Von Cleek?
Yes. You bungled into killing a man you don't even know. That is terrible luck, my friend.
I'm not your friend.
Nor are you my enemy. Do you know why? Because I don't care about you. I don't care whether you live or die. After we have served each other's purposes.
Who are you?
Mordell. General Mordell. A general without an army. The most useless of all useless things.
Mordell?
I will refresh your memory. I was part of the Nazi general staff. There was a point in the war where some of us, some generals who had put Hitler into power, decided his leadership was no longer useful. He could have led us to victory, but he was leading us to defeat. Worse, to total destruction.
Oh, yes, Mordell. The Nazi general staff.
Correct.
Yes, they said you were dead.
They said all of us who failed to kill Hitler were dead. And it was true, except for one. For this one. For me.
I want nothing to do with you.
Listen, my dear fellow. 3 former friends killed my family after I failed in the bomb plot. 3 good staff officers. Since then, I've had but one mission in life. To kill them. I waited. 2 are gone. The last one was due to land here on a plane until...
You on a plane?
In this field? There's a strip a plane can land on, about 100 yards west of us. When Click was helping to install one of the radio beacons they'll use to guide the plane in, when you shot him and upset everything. Now I want your help.
It's ridiculous.
When you shot Von Click and threw his body in the sump, you committed yourself to helping me.
I'll have nothing to do with you or your plan.
A murderer never has a choice. It was an accident. Which has become a murder.
How do you know that I won't kill you?
Because you need me. No matter how vehemently you protest the association. Because I can help you.
What could you possibly do to help me?
I can get evidence against Heffingham and Hyatt, which can destroy them.
On what basis?
The People's Union.
The People's Union? That's a farce. No one cares about it.
No. It is more powerful than you think. Exposing it can set you free. The courier who will arrive on the plane in this field, he will carry a portfolio.
And what will be in the portfolio?
Information you might use to convict these men of sedition.
Sedition? Are you implying a fascist coup?
Why, that's ridiculous in these days. Precisely why it is possible.
And assuming what you say that is true.
It is true.
Well, assuming that I believe that. Assuming the People's Union think I stumbled onto something last night and may either testify against me or kill me.
They will, unless you help me.
What must I do? Kill the courier?
No, I will do that. You will merely be my accomplice.
We will return to Escape and today's story, A Rough Shoot, in just a moment. Edmund O'Brien stars as yours truly, Johnny Dollar, radio's most expensive, exciting insurance sleuth. Johnny Dollar writes up the fanciest expense accounts, and while he's doing it, he takes his listeners along on thrilling, unusual insurance investigations of arson, robbery, and murder. Every Wednesday night, listen in over CBS Radio as Johnny Dollar totes up his swindle sheet while he treats you to action and mystery galore. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, will be in action later tonight on most of these same stations. And now, back to Escape.
Nothing to eat for me, Cecil.
All right.
Such an understanding wife you have, Tang. Never forces her husband to do anything he does not want to do.
No.
I had a wife once, and children. They killed my family because they couldn't find me. Nothing moves you, does it? Nothing, no compassion for the other.
You created your own monster and it destroyed you. No one made you do it.
Precisely. No one. You're right. I do not seek pity, nor do I give it. The German General Staff created Hitler, and part of the staff eventually changed its mind.
Yeah, falling out of thieves.
Don't worry, Mrs. Payne. Your husband and I cannot have a falling out. We are not bound together by loyalty. We have more powerful motivations. I, revenge. Your husband, fear.
Fear and revenge.
All your life.
Fear and revenge.
Don't you think your good Hassingham and Hyatt function the same way?
Hassingham the fool will come to his senses soon.
Never.
You don't understand the British mind, do you?
I understand the fascist mind. It's getting dark. Shall we go to the field?
Roger? It's all right, my dear.
What a shame it would be if we were to fail and Hassingham were to succeed. Your wife and children would be left alone.
You're cruel.
A vengeful man, as the courier will discover when he lands.
Don't worry, my dear. It will be all right.
Ah, the ex-soldier speaks in all his bravery. Come, Payne.
As we had, for the last 3 nights, we approached the landing strip from the woods. The whole affair seemed fantastic. For 3 nights, Mordell and I had hidden at the north end of the landing strip and waited for the plane to arrive. In spite of myself, I was growing impatient.
Wait.
What is it?
Come in. They're waiting down in the gully.
Then the plane must be due tonight.
Yes, it will be tonight. Come. We may not have much time.
Well, perhaps we don't have time for anything.
We must move the radio beacon.
We can't move both of them. Those men are too close to the south beacon.
But if we move the north beacon, just that one would bring the plane right to us.
Well, if it comes in from the south. But if it comes in from the north, it will stop in front of us.
We must take that chance.
We were close enough to recognize Hyatt's voice. He was talking to the other men. We couldn't catch what they were saying, so we began to make our way slowly from thicket to thicket, pausing, waiting breathlessly to see if we'd been detected. Finally, we came to the radio beacon. It was larger than a wireless set and would require both of us to carry it. We took it and as quietly as possible carried it to the far end of the field, near the woods, set it up on its spiked legs. Then we stepped back into the trees and waited. Mordell pulled something from his pocket.
It won't be long now.
What do you have there?
An automatic pistol. English make, I prefer them. Didn't you bring one, Payne?
No, of course not.
Of course not? Why, of course not?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't carried one since
the war? Certainly, you couldn't conceivably think of killing anyone except in a war.
Then you really are going to kill that man on the plane?
That has been obvious since our first conversation.
You're determined to kill him?
If he's the man I'm looking for, and I'm certain he is.
The minute he steps off the plane?
Oh, no, I'll wait. He must know it is I, Mordell, who is killing him. I must first remind him of many things.
You must... Mordell.
Yes?
I'm going to turn myself into the police.
By all means. I don't need you any longer.
I can't...
Well, why don't you go? Afraid?
I'll not have any part of this murder.
Going to throw yourself on the mercy of the court.
There is no justice in the courts?
Not if 2 such estimable gentlemen as Hyatt and Hassingham testify against you. You have enough. The plane is coming in, and it's coming in from the south. Now. Lower. He's coming to our beacon. He must. Your last chance, Payne. Coming?
Yes, I'm coming.
You there, in the plane. Hurry, don't stand there. Follow us.
Who is it? Ungracious at you?
We can talk in the woods. Jump from the plane.
Here we are.
It's the police. Hurry. Tell the pilot to go now.
I cannot see your face.
Quickly.
Hurry. Get that plane out of here, out.
Fast. All right, followers. Into the woods.
there. Over this way. Follow me now. Follow me.
Hattingham and the others ran off in the wrong direction. With his guns, Mordell prodded the reluctant looks deeper into the woods, and then stopped.
It has been 6 years, Lux.
I did what was ordered. I tried to stop it, but everyone who was a friend of yours was suspect. Everyone. It had to be done.
My good friend Lux. My old comrade in arms, Lux. The murder of my family, Lux.
I didn't really do it once, did I? I was only there, Morton.
That's a lie.
It's true. Don't you understand? You had failed. And if we followed your example, if we turned on the Fuhrer also, there wouldn't have been anyone left to prepare.
For what? For defeat? For destruction? What preparation was needed?
No, to prepare for afterwards. Here, look, in this briefcase, a list of names, men all over the world, still ready to help. Strong men, important men. Here, Martel, look, Martel, in the briefcase.
Step back, then. Give it to me, Lux.
Let me see it.
Stay.
I helped you. I have helped my part of the bargain.
It was no bargain at all. You had no choice. Now, Lux, what was this about preparing for afterwards?
Yes, prepare. We had to protect the staff. Hitler himself meant nothing any longer. But we needed time to make plans to protect the staff.
And not your preparations did.
That's why you're wrong, Mortel, wrong. We did well. If you live in the past, the defeat. We are not defeated. Little by little we come back. Little by little we take over important work. Big work.
An illusion. Like the illusion we all had once. The illusion of the defeated.
Are Colonel Hattingham and the art illusions?
Theirs is the same idiot song you sing.
No, Mordell. Don't you see? There is no past for us.
No murdered wife. No murdered children, Lux. No past, all forgotten.
It had to be done. I had to go along with the others.
You outdid the others.
You can't. The past, it's over. We all did our duty. Good friend.
Can't do it. Don't try to interfere.
Well, this is England. It's not Nazi Germany.
Silence!
Lux. Mordell, you'll never get out of England alive. The police will...
The argument is over.
No.
For my wife.
Mordell.
For my daughter, Lux. For my son, Lux.
Up there. To the right, Mister.
Hattingham, he'll kill us.
Follow me. Through here.
Down the hollow. His Lux. Leave it. Come on.
I am not going to run. Give me the briefcase, then.
No. I will go. There.
Don't take time to fire back.
I can hardly move.
What else? What else?
I'm hit, Englishman. Then for me.
The briefcase. Give it to me.
No, let go of the briefcase.
They're in here somewhere. I know I hit one of them. Well, be careful.
Here he is. It's Mordell.
Is he asleep? I don't know. But find the briefcase. Go back to where we found Lux. I don't know. Come on.
I crept quietly to the edge of the woods and then ran as I had never run before. It was raining when I reached the village, and as I walked through the deserted streets toward the familiar blue light that glowed over the entrance of the constabulary, I wondered if the police would believe the incredible story they were about to hear. And then I remembered the briefcase under my arm, with its documents and its proof. Sergeant, my name is Roger Tane. 4 nights ago, I shot a man. You'll find his body in the sump on Mr. Blossom's farm.
Under the direction of Norman MacDonald, Escape has brought you A Rough Shoot by Jeffrey Hushold, specially adapted for radio by Arthur Ross and starring Ben Wright. Featured in the cast were John Boehner, Stan Waxman, Mary Lansing, Howard McNear, Larry Dobkin, and Lou Krugman. The special music for Escape is composed and conducted by Leith Stevens.
escape with us to New Guinea and the story of a man who is to die at the hands of Papuan cannibals. The second his watch stops ticking, as Hugh Cave tells it in his unusual tale, The Silent Horror.
The meanest crooks who deliberately trap teenagers into a life of crime. Those are target for tomorrow night when Agent Shepard and the FBI in Peace and War tackle first offense specialists in a manhunt packed with action as well as human interest. Don't miss CBS Radio's startling FBI in Peace and War program tomorrow evening on most of these same stations for thrilling insight into rackets and racket smashing. This is Roy Rowan speaking. This is the CBS Radio Network.
Wheat checks, rice checks, and good hot Ralston present Space Patrol! High adventure in the wild, vast reaches of space. Missions of daring in the name of interplanetary justice. Travel into the future with Buzz Corey, Commander-in-Chief of the Space Patrol! In today's transcribed adventure, Buzz and Happy are being held in a cave on Pluto by two criminals who plan to dispose of them. Now the Commander and Happy have managed to get to a spaceophone in the cave.
All the meters check, Happy. There's nothing wrong with the spaceophone after all.
That's great. We can have a whole squadron of Space Patrol ships out here in a few minutes.
This is an emergency call from Commander Corey to Pluto City Space Patrol Unit. Send ships to Sector G18. Look for my ship, Terra 5, grounded near a steep bluff. Professor Walker, Cadet Happy, and myself are being held by...
Use the radar quickly! I'm going to get Corey permanently!
We'll return in just a moment with today's Space Patrol adventure, The Prisoners of Pluto. Hiya, gang. This is Captain Dick Tufeld speaking. I'm just having myself a stroll down the street before I turn in for the night. Uh-oh, what's that light blinking in the window of that house across the street? Say, I'm going to investigate. That light's a signal, and it's a Space Patrol code system. It says, be sure to tell the boys and girls how to get a Space Patrol pocket projectoscope. Hey, that's a real projectoscope that boy's signaling with. Gang, I'm going to get him to tell you all about his projectoscope because you can have one, too.
I thought that'd bring you running, Captain Tufeld. Come on in. Boy, am I glad I sent for this projectoscope. It's really something.
Tell the gang all about it, Space Patroller.
Well, kids, it's not only a key signal light. You can use it as a film projector in a dark room. Watch me flash pictures with it on the wall, Captain. There. See that picture? That's a picture from the Space Patrol adventure called Mighty Meteor. And it comes with your projectoscope on a strip of film with 3 other swell stories called Space Pirates, Men from Mars, and Robot Invasion. And Buzz Corey and Cadet Happy are in them, too.
And, gang, on this one film, there are 24 different pictures.
The projectoscope's a real flashlight, too. A flashlight in the shape of Buzz Corey's rocket ship.
And it's a winner for looks. A neat 6 inches long, made of smooth, tough plastic, with 4 big tail fins and a 1-inch radar antenna.
Just think, a signal light, flashlight, film projector, and model rocket, all in one.
Gang, to get an official Space Patrol projectoscope, complete with bulb, battery, and film, do this. Buy a box of rice checks or wheat checks, the cereals with a wonderful magic space picture on the inside. And then with your name and address, send 35 cents in coin and a rice checks or wheat checks box top to Space Patrol, Box 686, St. Louis, Missouri. Don't forget your 35 cents. That's Space Patrol, Box 686, St. Louis, Missouri. And now, today's Space Patrol adventure, The Prisoner of Pluto. Commander Corey and Cadet Happy have been in Pluto City awaiting the arrival of Professor Malcolm Walker, who's from another city on this outer planet. Deeply concerned over the professor's failure to arrive, Buzz has ordered patrol ships to search the dark, constantly frozen surface of Pluto. Several hours later, Buzz and Happy join in the search, scanning rocky crags and valleys of frozen air with infrared probe rays from their ship Terra 5. Finally, Buzz sees the wreckage of a small lab ship at the base of a long slope. Now, in their spacesuits, Buzz and Happy are climbing the slope in order to investigate the wreckage.
The ship doesn't look too badly damaged, Commander.
Even a tiny hole in the hull would be serious damage here on Pluto, Happy. Unless Professor Walker managed to get into a spacesuit, the intense cold and lack of air would finish him in a few seconds.
There doesn't seem to be any sign of life, sir. I don't see any lights in the ship.
Let's get the hatch open. Focus your atomo light over here, Hap.
Yes, Commander.
I'll go in first, Happy. You ready to open that first aid kit? If the professor's still alive, we'll have to work fast.
It's ready, sir.
Secure the outer hatch.
Hatch secured, sir.
Well, he's not in the control section.
Want me to check the aft compartment, sir?
All right. He may have sealed himself in after the crash. Hey, wait. What's this on the control panel?
It looks like a note, Commander.
Hold your light on it. Ship crashed due to instrument failure. Spacephone equipment damaged by crash. I am not hurt. 2 hours after crash, I thought I saw a flash of light due west. Since rescue at this position is unlikely, I've gone to investigate source of light. I shall appreciate finder of this note relaying this information to Commander Corey of the Space Patrol, who is now in Pluto City. I'm carrying a projectoscope and an atomo light. Professor Malcolm Walker.
Professor Walker should have stayed with the ship.
Yeah, it's good to know he wasn't hurt. I wonder what caused that flash of light he saw.
There's nothing out here in this part of Pluto, unless another search ship has landed here.
The light was probably a reflection on the frozen air that covers the ground. A reflection from a ship far above this planet.
Well, if Professor Walker took an atomo light with him, it shouldn't be too hard to find.
Let's get back to our ship, Happy. We can head due west, low altitude, and see if we can locate him.
Right, sir.
First, just to prevent any further wild chases all over Pluto, I'll add to this note the event he returns here. I'll ask him to remain.
Just a minute.
There he is on the sled, just like I told you on the space phone. Found him unconscious, almost tripped over him in the dark.
All right. Let's lift him out of this airlock. Say, didn't you jump any more frozen air, Orman?
That first will hold us until we find out who this guy is.
Just set him down here. Well, anyway, he isn't with the Space Patrol.
His suit says United Planets Research Foundation.
What kind of a research would he be doing out here?
His eyes are open now, Hagel. Open his face, people. Find out who he is.
Wait, Orman. Chances are he's just lost. If we don't arouse his suspicion, we can keep him here until our supply ship arrives next week without any trouble.
Well, then what?
Then we will turn him over to the boys. They can get rid of him out in space.
Okay.
All right. Open the face piece, and I'll do the talking. Just take it easy, my friend. We'll have you out of that spacesuit in a moment.
Thank you. My heating unit went out. Guess I'm lucky you found me.
You certainly are. How do you happen to be on this part of Pluto?
My lab ship crashed a mile or two from here. Mm-hmm. I'm Professor Malcolm Walker with the United Planets Research Foundation. Mr.
Hagel. I'm a geologist.
I see. I wonder if you would let me use your spacephone to contact a friend of mine in Pluto City. He's probably worried about me.
Well, as a matter of fact, we're having a little trouble with our spacephone transmitter. As soon as my partner can repair it, we'll be glad to let you send a message.
Thank you.
Of course, it may take several days.
Several days?
Yes. You see, we don't have much spare equipment here, but our regular supply and relief ship should be here in about a week. You will be able to go back with them.
It's rather inconvenient. What am I complaining about? Here I am, recently saved from certain death, and I'm fretting about spending a few days in a warm cave with congenial companions.
I understand exactly how you feel.
Oh, by the way, was my projectoscope signal light on when you found me?
Signal light? No, just the regular atomo light, and it was turned on.
Oh, good. And there may be a chance that a search ship will see the other light. I remember dropping it just before I collapsed. I'm afraid I was so numb with cold that I don't remember exactly.
You had a signal light?
Yes, as I said.
I see. Professor, if you'll come with me, I'll get you something to eat. I'm sure you must be quite hungry after the ordeal you had. If you just go into the next room and make yourself comfortable. Right through the door. I'll be right in.
Thank you, Mr. Hagel. I'm most grateful.
Oh, you're entirely welcome. Oh, Norman, could I speak to you for a moment?
Yeah, Hagel, what is it?
Well, I'm afraid you'll have to go out again and get some more air, after all.
Go out there again?
Yes, please. The old fool has dropped the signal light. You will have to find it before a search ship spots it. Now get going.
The signal light, that's all we need.
Yeah, hurry. I'll prepare a snack for our guest.
Well, there's not a sign of anybody down there, sir.
Keep your eye on the viewscope, Happy. The professor couldn't have gone much farther than this on foot. He'll circle back and cover the area again.
He may not have headed due west after all, sir. Couldn't the infrared beam have picked him up by now?
Unless he's fallen into a crevice.
Yeah, and that would account for our not seeing the lights he said he was carrying.
It doesn't look too good. You better send for more search ships. Space upon Pluto City, Happy, but still keep an eye on the viewscope.
Yes, sir. Cadet Happy aboard Terra 5 calling Pluto City Space Patrol. Cadet Happy
hold
aboard...
on a minute, Hap. Check your transmitter setting.
Yes, sir. Seems all right to me. Oh, I forgot about the new double scrambler circuit.
You were on two frequencies, Pluto City and Terra headquarters.
Yeah, I'll have to watch that. Terra would probably wonder why we were bothering them with a Pluto search problem.
The double scrambler is a good security measure, Hap. You can send the same message in two different codes, and no outsider listening in can tell that the same message is being sent.
Now, well, I've got it set for Pluto City alone now, Commander.
Fine, Hap.
Look, there's a projectoscope light, Commander, down there on the ground.
That must be Professor Walker's light. Happy, hold that call until we can land and do some investigating.
All right, Commander.
Why doesn't he turn it back on? He must have seen our ship light. Well, got a rough check on the location. Shouldn't be difficult to find him now.
Well, that didn't take you long. Any luck, Roman?
There's a professor.
He's in the next room eating.
Yeah, I found the light. It's fallen into a narrow fissure in the rocks.
Was it down?
Yeah. It's pointing downward. I doubt if it could have been seen from his ship. Certainly had a close call at that.
What do you mean?
Just as I was picking up the light, I caught a glimpse of a spaceship's light over to the north. Quickly shut off the light.
You certain they didn't see the light?
I'm almost certain. They'd have had to be looking right at it. Anyway, they wouldn't see anything out there now, even with their brightest atomo search beams on.
You're right. They'll never see the airlock opening unless they landed and stood right in front of it.
That was a delicious supper, gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're quite welcome, Professor. Now, if you'll come with me, I'll show you. Well, you won't give us any trouble for a few hours.
You asleep?
Yeah, dropped off the moment he laid down.
Look, Hagel, why can't we get the supply ship here quicker? We can space one them tonight.
That would be pretty stupid, Roman. With search ships flying around this area. In a week, they'll have given out the search. Then it will be safe for the supply ship to land.
I'm sick of hiding out in this cave. We've been here 10 months. Surely the Space Patrol isn't still looking for us after all that time.
Well, I'd rather be here than in some Space Patrol detention center, undergoing suspended animation.
Yeah, I'd like to know how this differs from suspended animation. Listen, hear that? Sounded like somebody in the airlock. Hagel.
Look. Sorry if we startled you. I'm Commander Corey of the Space Patrol.
Yes, Commander. We were startled. You see, we weren't expecting company.
We're looking for Professor Walker.
Professor Walker? Why, there is no one here but my partner and myself.
Professor Walker's lab ship crashed near here.
Yeah, we found a note that he was headed in this general direction.
Oh, and he probably went right on past our airlock. We often miss it ourselves.
I don't imagine he's very far away. You're sure you haven't seen him?
Oh, no, we haven't seen anyone. Have we, Mr. Evans?
No, of course not.
In case you hear anything about him, would you please notify the United Planets Research Foundation?
The United Planets Research Foundation? I see.
If you forget the name, you'll find it engraved on this projectoscope you have here on the table.
Projectoscope?
This one, Mr. Hagel.
Hagel? I don't believe I told you my name.
You didn't. You looked familiar to me when I first came in. I just recalled where I'd seen your picture.
And where was that, Commander?
We have a method of remembering faces we see in the Space Patrol wanted file.
I don't believe I understand.
It's very simple, but I'm not going to explain it now. If Professor Walker isn't here and you haven't seen him, how do you happen to have his projectoscope?
Rorman, get them. Commander!
Here we are, Cadet.
Nice work, Rorman.
I saw the commander edging toward the projectoscope. I couldn't grab it in time.
It's probably just as well.
Corey and the cadet have forced our hands. Now we'll have to play it safe. Lock them up. We'll get rid of them and the professor, too.
We'll be back with Space Patrol in just a moment. Hi, gang. This is Captain Dick Tufeld speaking from the Interplanetary School Stadium on Terra. I just saw a swell baseball game here. Listen to that crowd cheer the winners. Yes, it sure is fun when you're a winner. And here's something like that. But remember, to be a winner, you have to get supercharged. And here's the way to take care of that. Eat a good breakfast with Rice Chex or Wheat Chex, the bite-sized super cereals that help to supercharge you. Delicious! And there's plenty of zing in that Rice Chex flavor. And man, oh man, Rice Chex biscuits are toasted and toasted to make them crisper and crisper. And Wheat Chex? Ah, there's a flavor you'd fly to the moon for. Now, gang, remember, it's fun to be a winner, and hear this. So move right up and be a winner. Move right up to the breakfast table for the breakfast that supercharges you. A power breakfast with the super cereals, Rice Chex or Wheat Chex. The cereals with Buzz Corey or Cadet Happy on the outside, and the wonderful magic space picture on the inside. And now back to today's Space Patrol adventure, The Prisoner of Pluto. Buzz Corey and Cadet Happy have been led to a secret cave on the dark, frozen planet Jupiter by a projectoscope signal lamp dropped by Professor Walker when he collapsed in his spacesuit near the cave airlock. Confronted by the commander, the two criminals, Hegel and Rorman, first denied they had seen the professor. But when Buzz discovered the professor's telltale projectoscope, the two fugitives rendered Buzz and Happy helpless with a paralyzer ray gun. Now, still under the effect of the paralyzer rays, Buzz and Happy have been carried to a cave room next to the one in which Professor Walker lies sleeping.
Okay, come on, let's get going.
Paralyzers ray out to hold them for another half hour. That'll be plenty of time.
Did you hear that, Happy?
Yes, Commander. Try moving your arms and legs. I've already tried, sir. My paralyzer ray seems to have worn off.
Good. The spacesuits protect us from the full effect. Let's try to locate a spaceophone and alert Pluto City.
How about the spaceophones in our spacesuits?
Remember, we're inside a cave. A long distance from Pluto City. The signal won't carry.
Oh, that's right, sir. Oh, Hegel must have a spaceophone in here.
We'll search the cave first and find Professor Walker. Then we'll see what we can do about a spaceophone. Professor? Professor Walker. Wake up, Professor.
All right. What's going on? Who are you?
I'm Commander Corey of the Space Patrol.
Of course. Commander, am I still in the cave?
Yes, Professor, you are.
Oh, that's a relief. I'm afraid I owe Mr. Hegel and Mr. Rorman an apology.
You do?
Yes. For a brief moment a while ago, I suspected them of trying to keep my presence here a secret. Isn't that ridiculous? I suppose it was due to my fatigue and fear after cracking up.
Now, listen, Professor, there isn't much time. Your suspicions were correct. Hegel and Rorman are criminals. What? The Space Patrol has been searching for them for months. You happen to stumble on their hideout.
And you captured them?
Not yet, but we will. We need your help. Where's their spaceophone?
Spaceophone? They told me it was out of commission.
Well, I'll bet they've got a spaceophone around here somewhere. And in good working order, too.
So we'll check. Professor, better get your spacesuit on. Be ready to move out of here in a hurry.
I certainly will, Commander.
Run, Happy. We'll try to locate Hegel.
Put this stuff down here. We can store it away later.
Okay.
Here you go.
Say, this is a real haul. We got quite a load of supplies out of that ship.
Yeah, we sure did. Now, let's get the three of them and put them on Corey's ship. Have your ray gun handy. We may have to give them another blast.
All right. Are you sure you can make the ship crack up look like an accident?
Oh, just leave it to me. We'll take Corey and the cadet to the ship first. Then come back for the professor. Wait.
What is it?
I hear voices in the spaceophone here. Be quiet. I'm going to open the door.
All we need is something wrong with the spaceophone. Well, here we go. Emergency from Commander Corey to Pluto City Space Patrol. Send a patrol unit to sector G18. Look for my ship, Terra 5, grounded near Steep Bluff. Professor Walker, Cadet Happy and myself are being held captive.
Roman, blast them with the ray gun, quickly!
That takes care of them. Switch off the spacephone. We got to get them to the ship in a hurry now.
Space Patrol, Pluto City, calling Commander Corey. Message
Hegel, I heard you.
We have established a fix on your location in Sector G18. Rescue ships will be dispatched immediately. Space Patrol Unit, Pluto City out.
Confound it.
Hegel, what are we going to do now?
We can't wreck Corey's ship. Those rescue ships would eventually locate the cave.
Can we contact Jackson and Trask? Maybe they can get here before the space patrol arrives.
We can do better than that. We can get away from here in Corey's ship.
Yeah, but who's going to pilot it? Where will we go? You don't know astrogation, neither do I.
Oh, I can get it spaceborne. After we're off Pluto, we'll wait till Corey and the cadet come out of the Reagan effect. Then we'll force them to take over and take us to Mars.
Yeah, but what about the professor?
If we take Corey, we'll have to take Walker, too. There'll be a good protection for us in case we're intercepted before Corey revives.
All right. Let's get him into Corey's ship. It won't take long for the patrol ships to get here. We better be gone.
Happy, are you awake?
Huh? Yeah, yes, sir. Where are we?
Aboard Terra 5.
Commander, you got us off Pluto. Well, the last thing I remember was having Hegel and Roman surprise us when we were using the spacephone. How did you manage to get us away?
I'm afraid I didn't. Hegel and his partner put all three of us aboard our ship.
Oh, Commander.
Yes, Professor?
I don't suppose you know where they're taking us?
No, I don't. You?
To Mars. They were talking after they used the ray gun on you and the cadet.
To Mars? Why would they risk discovery by blasting off in my ship?
Well, you see, the Pluto City Space Patrol Unit replied that they had established a fix on the cave and were going to send rescue ships immediately.
What? I don't see how that's possible. Hegel and Rorman got us before we established contact with Pluto City. Besides, they couldn't have plotted to fix that fast.
It was my voice they heard.
Your voice, Professor?
Yes, I saw them watching you, and I knew they'd never let you complete the call. So I used the transmitter in my spacesuit to make them think you'd succeeded. Perhaps it wasn't such a good idea.
I'm not so sure. At any rate, it was very quick thinking, Professor.
But it didn't have the effect I hoped it would. I thought perhaps if they thought their position was hopeless, Hegel would surrender without harming us.
Well, at least it got us off Pluto, Professor.
But we're still their prisoners.
And we've still got a chance. So I hear somebody in the next compartment.
Oh, you've come out of it, eh? Come on, Commander. You and the cadet have work to do.
And if we refuse?
Roman and I can easily find a way to change your mind. All we want you to do is to plot an astrogation lecture that'll take us to Mars.
Can't you do it?
I wouldn't be asking you if I could. There's a lot about the ship that I don't understand. And listen, Corey, don't try any tricks. I'll know Mars when we're close enough to see it. And don't forget, whatever happens to the ship happens to you, too.
All right, Hegel.
Okay, after the control compartment, then. Professor, you'll stay here.
All right, Hegel, there you are. We're on automatic control now. We ought to reach Mars at about 2300 Universal Star Time.
And you swear that the vector you set keeps us off the regular space lane?
I said it did, didn't I?
I'm going to watch the viewscope, Corey. And if another ship appears following us, you'll regret it.
Well, can we help it if somebody sees us accidentally?
It'll be up to both of you to avoid that accident.
Yeah. Now, look, Corey. I want my men to meet us on the Martian plane and pick us up there. Turn on the spacephone so that I can contact them.
No fix on this either.
I don't know how this thing works, but I do know when the scramble circle is set to the right combination.
And which one is that?
Scrambler code 31567. Now set it.
All right.
That's it. Now cut on the transmitter. This is Hegel calling Jet Trask at Saturn City. Hegel calling Jet Trask at Saturn City.
I hope he and Jackson are near the receiver.
Hegel, spaceborne out of Pluto, calling Jet Trask at Saturn City.
Maybe Corey's trying something.
Spacephone's on, don't worry.
Hegel to Trask.
Trask here. Go ahead, boss.
Trask, listen carefully. I got a job for you.
How did you get off Pluto? I thought
Just
you were...
listen. I want you to take a ship and meet me on the Martian plane, Sector 5G. We'll be there at about 2300 Universal Star Time.
Got it. I'll be there.
I'll be aboard Commander Corey's space battle cruiser, the Terra 5.
What? Hey, listen, are you making a deal with Corey?
Don't be a fool, Trask. If I were double-crossing you, would I use Corey's ship? I've got Corey and his cadet and Professor Walker here at the ray gun point.
Okay, Hegel. I'll pick you up at Sector 5G, Martian plane at 2300 hours Universal Start Time.
All right, Trask. Hegel out. Cut it out, Corey. Roman, take Corey and the cadet back to the compartment. We'll bring them out again when it's time to land on Mars. Nice landing, Corey. And now this is where we say goodbye.
Yeah, we'll miss you.
You won't miss a thing from now on.
Yeah, this is it. For all three of you.
Let's finish them before Trask lands so we won't waste any time getting away from them.
There's just one thing I want to do first, Hegel.
Yeah? What is it?
This! Get him happy while we're off balance.
Well, I guess that takes care of our friends, sir.
Get their weapons, Happy.
Foreman, why didn't you watch Corey?
How did I know he was going to jolt the ship with a rocket blast? Anyway, maybe Trask can help us.
That's right, Corey. The alert you gave the ship will tip him off that something's wrong. He'll get us out of this.
I think you'll find that Trask is having troubles of his own. Have a look in the viewscope.
Space Patrol ships.
That's right.
Where did they come from?
You told them where to find us, Hegel.
I did?
Yes. And you were talking to Trask on one scramble frequency. The same message was being sent out on the regular Space Patrol emergency frequency. Happy, take them back out and lock them up. And ask the professor if he cares to join us.
Right, sir. All right. Come on, you two. Be our guests for a change.
An action preview of next week's exciting Space Patrol adventure in just a moment. And now, gang, here's Cadet Happy to tell you how you can have fun 10 different ways with that swell new Space Patrol projectoscope shaped like a rocket ship. Number 1.
Show pictures on the wall with it.
2.
Use it as a flashlight.
3.
Give signals with it at night.
4.
Hide secret messages inside of it.
5.
Play Space Patrol with it.
6.
Light it in a dark room. Looks like a rocket flying at night.
7.
Wire it on your bike for a new and different kind of ornament.
8.
Keep it to dress up your room. Stand straight up on its tail fins.
9.
Keep it by your bed at night. Comes in mighty handy.
And 10.
Take the bulb and battery out and use it as a roomy pocket case for marbles, jacks, money.
Yes, sir, gang. The projectoscope is lots of fun. And it comes to you complete with bulb, battery, and film for showing pictures on the wall. To get a projectoscope, do this. Buy a box of rice checks or wheat checks. Then, with your name and address, send 35 cents in coin and a rice checks or wheat checks box top to Space Patrol, Box 686, St. Louis, Missouri. This offer good only in the USA and may be withdrawn at any time. That's Space Patrol, Box 686, St. Louis, Missouri. And now, a preview of next week's exciting Space Patrol adventure. Buzz and Happy are investigating a space factory revolving in an orbit around the planet Venus. Suddenly, they find themselves locked in a freight-handling chamber room, floating in the middle of the room.
Trowbridge has cut the artificial gravity field. We're completely weightless.
Well, how are we going to get down to the floor? Oh, my head. Smoke and rockets come at it. We fell up to the ceiling. There's the floor down there below us.
Trowbridge reversed the gravity field. The pull in this room is toward the ceiling.
Well, now how are we going to get down to the floor?
We'll get down to it all right. The hard way, I'm afraid. Trowbridge will reverse the gravity field from floor to ceiling till he breaks every bone in our bodies.
Be sure to listen next Saturday for the exciting story, The Venus Space Factory, when wheat checks, rice checks, and good hot Ralston again bring you Space Patrol! Special bulletin for boys and girls in Springfield, Illinois, Terre Haute, Indiana, and Washington, D.C. Buzz Corey's own space battle cruiser, the Ralston Rocket, will be in your area next week. Don't miss it. The Ralston Rocket.
Boys and girls, this is your commander speaking. Help science help you. Give every nickel and dime you can to the American Cancer Society.
Space Patrol, an original Mike Moser production starring Ed Kemmer as Commander Corey and Lynn Osborne as Cadet Happy, was written by Lou Houston and directed by Larry Robertson. Other players were Ken Mayer, Norman Jolly, Bela Kovach, and Stephen Robertson. Dick Tufeld speaking. Now, don't forget to tune in next Saturday and every Saturday when wheat checks, rice checks, and good hot Ralston again present the new exciting Space Patrol. And be sure to see another exciting Space Patrol program on your local ABC TV station. Consult your local paper for time and channel. Space Patrol came to you transcribed from Hollywood. This is ABC Radio Network.